Chapter 4669. Emerald Sky Pavilion was naturally a pavilion, but when Bai and followed Princess Xixia into the pavilion, she saw that it was actually a heavenly abode. Above her head was a clear sky, below her feet was a vast expanse of blue water, and around her were glittering golden flowers that appeared and disappeared with her every breath. How could she not know that this was the Jade Pool's heavenly abode? Bai and didn't think it was strange. She carefully lowered her head and followed beside Princess Xixia. When the East Sea Empress sat down, Princess Xixia stood beside her. The East Sea Empress raised her hand and a seat that looked like a flower bud appeared out of thin air. She smiled and said, "Exit. Xixia, now that you have a title, you can have a place in Emerald Sky Pavilion. Take a seat." Tears appeared in Princess Xixia's eyes. Looking at the picturesque East Sea Empress, she knew that although the East Sea Empress didn't look old, her state of mind was full of vicissitudes. Just her matters alone made the East Sea Empress worry a lot. If the East Sea Empress hadn't demoted by and from the heavenly abode, she didn't know when she would be able to see the light of day again. Of course, Princess Xixia knew that in addition to the East Sea Empress, she also had Xiaohua, who valued his promises like gold. As long as Xiaohua knew about her, he would definitely search high and low for her. With Xiaohua's strength, she would definitely be able to escape. However, facing the mother who gave birth to her, Princess Xixia felt a rare warmth. She lowered her head and said, "Yes, Empress." As Princess Xixia sat down, Bai and carefully stood behind her. The East Sea Empress smiled and said, "Xin, now that we are at Emerald Sky Pavilion, there is no need to follow the heavenly abode's etiquette. Just address me as family." "Yes, mother," Princess Xixia replied with a smile. Boy hasn't called mother that in a long time. Princess Xixia's words caused the East Sea Queen's eyes to redden. She wiped the corners of her eyes with her sleeve and sighed. "That's right, Xin. These years. It's been hard on you." Hearing Princess Xixia call the East Sea Empress mother, the East Sea Empress lost her composure again. Bai and the maids beside the East Sea Empress didn't raise their heads and exchange glances. They all gently moved their bodies and left Emerald Sky Pavilion, standing outside the heavenly abode. Princess Xixia wasn't in a hurry to speak. She waited for Bai and the others to leave before saying, "I've made Imperial Mother worry. Actually, in these 300 years. Come here and sit beside Mother." The East Sea Empress expression was filled with love as she extended her hand towards Princess Xixia. Princess Xixia was shocked. After all, as far as she could remember, she had never been so intimate with the East Sea Empress. However, despite her surprise, Princess Xixia also understood that although she had not married Xiaohua, Immortal Emperor Go Chen's decree had already been passed down. She could no longer stay in the Immortal Palace. This was no different from marrying Xiaohua. It would not be as easy for the Eastern Sea Empress to see her in the future. The Empress would only be so sad and lose her composure when she was about to lose something, right? Princess Xixia also felt a sense of loss. She stood up and walked to the side of the East Sea Empress. The East Sea Empress held Princess Xixia's hand and hugged her. That warmth made Princess Xixia feel like she had returned to her childhood. "Imperial Mother," Princess Xixia whispered. Actually, in these 300 years, although the boy had suffered some hardships, the boy had also gained a lot. When the boy met Xiaohua, he had already taught the boy the 5 energies unifying origin technique. The boy used these 300 years to painstakingly cultivate. These 300 years were just the blink of an eye. At this point, Princess Xixia even said mischievously, "I won't hide it from Imperial Mother." The boy knew that Xiaohua's cultivation was low at that time. The boy even thought that after he cultivated to the literary saint realm, he would break through the seal on his own. "Sigh, this kind of thing. Why didn't you tell Imperial Mother?" The East Sea Empress sighed. A bitter smile appeared on Princess Xixia's face. The Immortal Emperor's decree had already been passed down. If the boy told Imperial Mother, it would only make things difficult for Imperial Mother. Rather than that, it would be better not to say it. "It's good that you weren't suppressed in the Heaven Punishment Prison Crystal." The East Sea Empress still had some lingering fear as she said, Imperial Mother was afraid that you would be like by N and fall into the heaven punishment prison crystal. There would be no righteous chi, no heaven-earth yuan chi, only darkness and loneliness in your eyes. Perhaps, Princess Xia said with some hesitation, this is also one of His Majesty's plans? Sigh, perhaps. Hearing Princess Xia mention Immortal Emperor Go Chen and thinking about the innate 5-element flags, the East Sea Empress couldn't help but think too much. She said, no matter what His Majesty's plans were, you still profited from a disaster. Tell Imperial Mother the whole story. Yes, Imperial Mother. Princess Xia didn't dare to delay. She recounted everything that happened after she was suppressed in Liao River and how she broke through the seal. She didn't hide anything. The East Sea Queen's expression also changed after hearing this. Although she had some complaints about Immortal Emperor Go Chen, they were husband and wife after all. She had only heard about the innate 4 cardinal formation from others and didn't think much of it before. But now, she understood that if it wasn't for Xiao Hua and Princess Xia's mystic origin water control flag, Immortal Emperor Go Chen might not have been able to return safely from Longevity Town. The East Sea Empress couldn't help but hug Princess Xia and say, Exen, you are indeed Imperial Mother's lucky star. I wouldn't dare. I'm afraid His Majesty has arranged everything. While Princess Xia was enjoying her mother's love, she was still brooding over Immortal Emperor Go Chen's suppression. Exen, you don't need to think so much. The East Sea Empress smiled bitterly and said, since you were born in the Immortal Palace and became His Majesty's princess, then you can't not face these things. Moreover, if His Majesty was really ruthless and directly suppressed you in the Heaven Punishment Prison Crystal, how could you cultivate the 5 elements origin and refine the mystic origin water control flag? It was only a temporary scheme, a backup plan, a preparation, but He also had the intention to take care of you. Your injuries were also healed during the suppression, weren't they? Yes, Imperial Mother. Princess Xia nodded and said with a smile, Boy has known about this since he was young and this boy understands it even more now. Boy thanks Imperial Mother for giving Boy such a good opportunity to accompany Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua is a good child. Hearing Princess Xia mention Xiao Hua, a smile appeared on the East Sea Empress' face. She said, not to mention Sun Jian, who has always been arrogant, praising Xiao Hua to the point that it's rare in the heavens and earth, even the 3 Pure Palace Master, who he fought before, was full of praise. Not to mention the information that Imperial Mother obtained from other sources. He is already a Taoist Mahayana cultivator, but he still doesn't have a dual cultivation partner. It seems he has deep feelings for you. When did you two meet and fall in love with each other? Princess Xia blushed slightly and said in a low voice, Boy doesn't know either. I just experienced life and death with him once, and after that, I couldn't help but like him. At this point, regardless of whether the East Sea Empress knew the details, Princess Xia told her everything that had happened in the Mystic Water Palace at the bottom of the river. Actually, the East Sea Empress said with a smile, this is fate. Back then, Imperial Mother didn't like His Majesty. Moreover, His Majesty was much weaker than the heirs of the 4 great clans. However, after seeing you a few times, Imperial Mother couldn't help but like His Majesty. It was rare for the East Sea Empress to be so happy, and she actually talked about some past events that even Princess Xia didn't know about. After talking for a while, Princess Xia said with a smile, Imperial Mother, I'm afraid Sister Miao Miao has already arrived. It's not good to let her wait outside for too long. Yes, Imperial Mother knows. The East Sea Empress nodded and said, after you participate in this Jade Pool meeting, you will need His Majesty's decree to come to the Immortal Palace again. It's difficult for Imperial Mother to see you, so let her wait outside for a while. Yes, Imperial Mother. Princess Xia was born and raised in the Immortal Palace. She had been scheming against Princess Qingqing for so many years. When she heard the East Sea Empress' words, she immediately understood that the East Sea Empress must have some business to attend to other than family matters. Thus, she got out of the East Sea Empress' arms and said respectfully, Boy understands. Seeing her daughter like this, the East Sea Empress was also heartbroken. However, she still hardened her heart and asked, Exen, Imperial Mother still has a few things to ask you. Imperial Mother, please speak. Princess Xia nodded. Boy will definitely tell Imperial Mother what he knows. The East Sea Empress pondered for a moment, then looked into Princess Xia's eyes and asked, The Fortune Gate. Unfortunately, before she could finish, Princess Xia smiled sweetly and said, Imperial Mother, forgive this boy for being unfilial. Boy has been engaged to Xiaohua, so boy is Xiaohua's person and no longer belongs to the immortal palace. My Confucian cultivator's daughter scripture clearly states that if a woman marries a chicken, she must follow the chicken. If she marries a dog, she must follow the dog. Boy must not speak about the Fortune Gate. The East Sea Empress had already expected Princess Xia to answer in such a way. She smiled and said, His Majesty's decree has not been made public yet, so you are not considered that. Before the East Sea Empress could finish, Princess Xia interrupted her again and said, Then Imperial Mother will be disappointed again. Boy has escaped from the Longevity Town and returned to the Fortune Gate with Xiaohua. He has not entered the Fortune Dao Palace. Therefore, I don't know anything about the Fortune Gate's matters. Alright. The East Sea Empress's face was expressionless. She nodded slightly and said, In that case, Imperial Mother will not force you. However, can Imperial Mother ask about some matters outside the Fortune Gate? Princess Xia smiled bitterly and said, Imperial Mother, boy has only been in the soaring Dragon Mountain range for 3 to 5 days. Even if he wants to find some secrets to report to Imperial Mother, I'm afraid he doesn't have the time. Imperial Mother knows that I'm making things difficult for you. Helplessness appeared on the East Sea Empress's face. She shook her head and said, But Imperial Mother still wants to ask you. Imperial Mother, please speak. Princess Xia naturally understood the meaning of the East Sea Empress's words and nodded. Master Xingyue. The East Sea Empress's eyes narrowed slightly as she looked at Fairy Xia. She asked word by word, Have you heard Xiaohua mention her whereabouts? Master Xingyue? Princess Xia was stunned. She looked at the East Sea Empress with confusion and asked, Why did your Majesty suddenly ask this? The East Sea Empress thought for a moment and replied, You can ask Xiaohua about this secret. He naturally knows. Imperial Mother does not have your Majesty's permission, so it is not easy for me to explain. You only need to answer Imperial Mother's question. Princess Xia thought for a moment and replied, When we were at the Fortune Gate, Xiaohua did not mention Master Xingyue's whereabouts to boy. So it's like that. The East Sea Empress shifted her gaze away from Princess Xia's face. It was unknown if she had noticed the little Xiaohua in Princess Xia's words, but she felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her shoulders. She nodded and said, If that's the case, Imperial Mother will know. You've done well. We, Confucian cultivators, emphasize the 3 obedience and 4 virtues. Since you're going to be his wife in the future, you must think for him and serve your husband well. Seeing the gloomy expression on the East Sea Empress's face, Princess Xia's heart ached slightly as she clearly thought of the conflict between her and immortal Emperor Go Qin. She forced a smile and said, Imperial Mother, please rest assured. Xiaohua is a man with deep feelings. If there's something, he will find the right time to tell boy. Moreover, boy is not the kind of person who is jealous. If both sides understand each other, then everything can be discussed. Princess Xia's words had the intention of persuading the East Sea Empress. However, when she saw the East Sea Empress's ugly expression, her voice became softer and softer. In the end, Princess Xia rolled her eyes and said with a smile, However, Imperial Mother, although boy cannot tell Imperial Mother the whereabouts of Master Xingyue, boy can tell you who is currently in charge of Star Plucking Tower. Oh, who is it? The East Sea Empress was stunned. The gloominess on her face disappeared as she asked Princess Xia curiously. Far away on the horizon but right in front of you. Princess Xia mischievously blinked her eyes again. I see. The East Sea Empress's eyes lit up. She immediately understood where Su Ji and Fairy Xingyue had gone, and a smile appeared on her face. The East Sea Empress's expression changed slightly. Princess Xixia immediately understood. She asked in surprise, "Imperial Mother, could it be that Master Xingyue has an extremely powerful background? The great array of the 9 states that has already been broken needs her to set it up again?" Previously, Princess Xixia did not understand why immortal Emperor Gochen had passed the method of setting up the great array of the 9 states to Xiaohua through her. After all, she knew that with Xiaohua's ability, even a Mahayana realm Taoist would not be able to set up the great array of the 9 states perfectly. However, after listening to the East Sea Empress's words, she could not help but have an idea. Sigh. Princess Xixia naturally did not mean to ask, but the East Sea Empress sighed again. This is His Majesty's idea, not Imperial Mother's plan. Now that Xingyue is helpless, His Majesty's plan is probably like drawing water with a sieve. Let's see how he deals with this. Hee. Princess Xixia covered her mouth and giggled. Darling Xiao is the most stingy. I'm afraid it's not easy to take out something that is already in his hands. The East Sea Empress did not know whether to laugh or cry when she thought of Xiaohua's stinginess. She said softly, "His Majesty probably has the same idea. That's why he simply let you teach him the method of setting up the 9 states." Imperial Mother, Princess Xixia did not ask much about the 9 states' great formation. Instead, she smiled and said, after Darling Xiao returned to the soaring Dragon Mountain range from the Star Moon Palace, he handed the Star Plucking Tower to Bai. Boy followed Darling Xiao back to the Fortune Gate. Naturally, the Star Plucking Tower is in the hands of Boy. That's right, Imperial Mother, Bai, and brought back a lot of good things from the Star Plucking Tower. Boy, you haven't seen Imperial Mother for a long time. Take these to show filial piety to Imperial Mother. As she spoke, Princess Xixia took out a lot of rare items from her cosmos sack and presented them to the East Sea Empress. The East Sea Empress was a descendant of the Immortal Palace. What kind of rare items had she not seen before? However, what she saw was Princess Xixia's filial piety. She accompanied Princess Xixia to pick up and appraise the rare items one by one. After almost an hour, she smiled and said, "Excellent, Imperial Mother knows of your filial piety. This star moon is very important to Xiaohua. You must take good care of the Star Plucking Tower. With the Star Plucking Tower, in the future, even if Xiaohua has wives and concubines, he must put you first. Not only does he love you, but he must also respect you in his heart." "Yes, Imperial Mother. Boy understands." Princess Xixia carefully agreed again. Then, intentionally or unintentionally, she looked outside the Azure Sky Pavilion. "Ai, you are such a kind-hearted child." The East Sea Empress smiled and said, "Imperial Mother only wants to talk to you for a while. You are thinking about other people's feelings." "Imperial Mother, Boy only does what he should do. What other people think, Boy doesn't care." Princess Xixia also smiled and replied. "Meow meow." The East Sea Empress said to the outside of the Azure Sky Pavilion, "Come in." Princess Meow Meow entered the Azure Sky Pavilion. The other maids waited outside and did not dare to come in. The moment Princess Meow Meow entered the Azure Sky Pavilion, she respectfully knelt down and greeted, "Greetings, Imperial Mother." Princess Xixia lowered her head and did not speak. However, she sighed in her heart. Princess Meow Meow was the least favored among the 9 princesses. However, she was also the most detached one. Princess Meow Meow was nervous when she saw Immortal Emperor Gaochen and the East Sea Empress. She did not know how to speak. Many of her answers were not in line with the Immortal Emperor and the Empress. For example, since she was kneeling, she should first call herself Imperial Mother, and then see what the East Sea Empress wanted to say. If it were the other 8 princesses, they would do the same. However, this Princess Meow Meow, even though Princess Xixia reminded her many times, panicked when she saw the Emperor and the Empress. She forgot all the etiquette. The East Sea Empress was unhappy. Seeing Princess Meow Meow's lack of manners, she was even more unhappy. She indifferently waved her hand and asked Princess Meow Meow to rise. Princess Meow Meow heard the East Sea Empress' displeasure and became even more nervous. She replied, "Thank you, Mother Empress." In an ordinary family, Mother Empress meant mother. As a child, it could be called casually. However, in the Immortal Palace's etiquette, unless the princess ordered it or the empress agreed, it could not be called casually. Princess Xia heard Princess Meow Meow lose her sense of propriety again. She hurriedly smiled and said, "Elder sister, come quickly. I haven't seen you for several hundred years. I really miss you." Princess Meow Meow naturally smiled. Just as she was about to speak, she suddenly remembered her previous greeting. She frowned slightly and looked at Princess Xia with a regretful expression. "How have you been recently, elder sister?" Princess Xia naturally wanted to find something to talk about and casually asked. Facing her younger sister, Princess Meow Meow immediately regained her liveliness. She smiled and said, "Elder sister can't be compared to younger sister. You can casually go down to the lower realm and meet your ideal husband. Even if you are punished by His Majesty, it is still a blessing in disguise. Moreover, younger sister's ideal husband is someone that Empress and His Majesty can rely on. My Immortal Palace and Empress should also talk to younger sister more." The East Sea Empress expression improved slightly. She smiled and said, "Everyone has their own fortune. Meow Meow, you don't need to think too much. For now, you should talk more with Xia. After the Jade Pool meeting, if you want to see her, it will be a little troublesome." "Hee, Mother Empress." Princess Xia wanted to help Princess Meow Meow. She smiled and said, "Although Darling Xiao is stingy, he is definitely not a petty person. If elder sister is willing, you can go to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. Younger sister will welcome you with open arms." "And good. The East Sea Empress heard and smiled. She nodded and said, "Once Xia leaves, I don't know when she will return. I can't go visit often. However, Meow Meow can go in my place. Xia, the Fortune Dao Palace has 3 elders. If possible, you can find a suitable one for Meow Meow." "Oh, right, does the Fortune Dao Palace only have these 3 elders?" Of course the Fortune Dao Palace doesn't. Princess Xia was immersed in her family and accidentally answered. But she only said half a sentence before she realized that something was wrong. She immediately stopped and looked at the East Sea Empress with a bitter smile. "Mother Empress, this boy doesn't know how many elders there are in the Fortune Dao Palace." Reverend Yun had a profound cultivation base, and he had been guarding the Fortune Dao Palace for a long time. If he was the 4th master of the Fortune Dao Palace, he would be stronger than the 3rd master of the Fortune Dao Palace. However, Reverend Yun had the 1st and 2nd master of the Fortune Dao Palace, and his overall strength was not any weaker than Xiao Lang. However, if Mother Empress is willing, this boy can talk to Darling Xiao. That lightning reverend and heavenly being are both human race's Mahayana realm experts. If Sister Meow Meow marries them, it will definitely not taint our immortal palace. Princess Xia's first sentence was naturally an explanation to the East Sea Empress. Her second sentence was obviously a perfunctory one. She was just casually playing along with the East Sea Empress words. However, when Princess Meow Meow heard this, she became anxious and waved her hand. "Exen, please don't." "If Ching." Princess Meow Meow realized that she had said something wrong and hurriedly stuck out her tongue and lowered her head. However, Princess Meow Meow's unintentional words attracted the East Sea Empress and Princess Xia's attention. The East Sea Empress said unhappily, "Meow Meow, you are you, and Ching is Ching. Your matter has nothing to do with her. If you marry the Fortune Dao Palace's 2nd elder or 3rd elder, it will be beneficial to the Immortal Palace." The East Sea Empress's words were a little blatant, but Princess Xia and Princess Meow Meow felt that it was only natural. After all, in the eyes of the Immortal Palace and the 100 families, the meaning of marriage was more towards the family's interests. The so-called feelings were just collateral. Princess Xia was also very happy that she was able to meet such a good husband like Xiaohua. However, Princess Xia knew Princess Meow Meow far better than the East Sea Empress. She knew that although Princess Meow Meow was afraid of the East Sea Empress and the Immortal Emperor, she was not afraid of Ching and the other princesses. She frowned and asked curiously, "Sister, what do you mean? Could it be that Ching-Ching? This. Princess Meow Meow's face was a little red, and she even said uneasily, "You have to ask Ching-Ching about this." "I don't know." It would have been better if Princess Meow Meow did not say anything. The moment she said this, even the East Sea Empress understood a little. She also frowned and looked at Princess Meow Meow. It would have been better if the East Sea Empress did not look, but when she did, Princess Meow Meow became even more flustered. She hurriedly waved her hand and said, "Mother, about Princess Ching-Ching and the lightning reverend." That Princess Meow Meow was completely dumbfounded. She did not dare to say another word. She nervously knelt on the ground and kowtowed, "Empress, boy really doesn't know, really doesn't know." Mother. Seeing that Princess Meow Meow's face was pale with fright, Princess Xia hurriedly smiled and said, "Don't ask, let the boy talk to sister." The East Sea Empress looked at Princess Meow Meow with some pity, but did not say anything. Her gaze was filled with a complicated expression. It was hard to tell if it was disgust or love. "Sister." Princess Xia walked in front of Princess Meow Meow and reached out to hold her ice-cold hand. She smiled and said, "Don't be too nervous. Didn't you say a lot when I accompanied you to drink at Jade Brightness Palace? You and I are sisters. If I can get it, you can too. You are not inferior to anyone." Xia. Princess Meow Meow's heart calmed down slightly. Although her voice was still trembling, she was no longer nervous. She forced a smile and replied, "You are wrong. Everyone is different from others. This was already confirmed when this person was born. Temperament, character, temper, and so on are not easy to change. Although you and I are both princesses of the immortal palace, temperament determines everything. I won't talk about others, but I will talk about you. Forbearance, magnanimity, modesty, but not avoidance. These are all things that allow you to handle things with ease. Sister knows her own limits. Being an idle princess and being able to share some of His Majesty's and Empress's worries is enough. I can't do anything." Princess Meow Meow had already said these words to Princess Xia. Princess Xia only brought it up again to ease the atmosphere. Thus, Princess Xia smiled and said, "Sister's words are also very good. Just be yourself and live your life well. Actually, you don't have to force yourself." "Thank you, Xia." Princess Meow Meow held Princess Xia's hand and said sincerely, "Sister heard His Majesty's decree just now. Sister is really happy for you. Only a perfect girl like you can have such a wonderful life." Seeing that Princess Meow Meow had calmed down, Princess Xia let go of her hand, blinked her eyes, and said, "Since Sister said Sister is perfect, do you think Sister will hit you when you are down? These are two different matters." Princess Meow Meow naturally understood what Princess Xia was talking about. She shook her head and said, "If you want to hit me when I am down, there are too many opportunities. So, you can rest assured and tell me the cause of this matter." Princess Xia smiled and said, "If you don't tell me now, won't it be even more troublesome when Ching-Ching blames you if something really goes wrong?" Alright. Princess Meow Meow naturally understood the stakes. Since she had already spoken and was also worried about Princess Ching-Ching, when would she say it if not now? Thus, Princess Meow Meow told them about the awkward moment she had just faced Princess Ching-Ching. For a moment, Princess Xia and the East Sea Empress looked at each other in dismay. Although what Princess Meow Meow said wasn't very strange and couldn't be considered evidence, and could even be said to be baseless guesses, from a woman's intuition, there was definitely something wrong with Princess Ching-Ching's thoughts. What exactly is going on? The East Sea Empress was somewhat angry and asked in a low voice, "Empress, the boy doesn't know. The boy only just found out about these clues." The moment the East Sea Empress spoke, Princess Meow Meow lost her composure and hurriedly answered. Princess Xia smiled and said, "Mother, the matter isn't clear yet. Why get angry now? Didn't Ching-Ching see the Thunder Immortal during the Battle of Day and Moo Cliff? Why don't we just ask what exactly happened? Where are the female officials of Jasper Flower Palace?" The East Sea Empress was angry again, as if this matter should have been reported by a female official long ago. "Summon the female officials of Jasper Flower Palace." Princess Xia smiled and shouted outside. Following Princess Xia's voice, a portion of the female officials of Jasper Flower Palace flew into Jade Sky Pavilion and respectfully knelt down. Which one of you participated in the Battle of Day and Mu Cliff with Qing Qing? Princess Xia's tone was very strict, far from the gentle tone she used to speak to Princess Miao Miao. The female officials looked at each other and shook their heads. They whispered, "This servant didn't go to Day and Mu Cliff. Where is Yu Xiajing?" Princess Xia asked indifferently. Princess Xia, Yu Xiajing was worried about Princess Qing Qing's injuries, so she went to look after the princess. The female officials didn't dare to stand up and hurriedly replied, "Please calm down, Empress." The East Sea Empress nodded. How could she punish such a loyal female official? Go and summon Yu Xiajing. Princess Xia's face was expressionless as she continued to give the order. Moments later, Yu Xiajing was ordered to arrive at Jade Sky Pavilion. As soon as she flew in, she immediately felt that something was wrong. After all, the female officials of Jasper Flower Palace were still kneeling on the ground, and the East Sea Empress looked displeased. Yu Xiajing didn't even think as she knelt down and kowtowed. This servant greets Empress. Princess Qing Qing's injuries haven't healed yet. If Empress wants to punish, this servant doesn't dare to say that I'll take responsibility, but Empress, please postpone the punishment. Yu Xiajing's words were very appropriate, and the East Sea Empress heard it and nodded slightly. Beside her, Princess Xia thought for a moment and smiled. Yu Xiajing, don't be afraid. Empress just wants to ask about Chao Muya's situation. Chao Muya? Yu Xiajing was confused and whispered, "What do Empress and Princess want to ask?" This servant doesn't dare to keep quiet. Stand up. Princess Xia ordered, then looked at the other female officials. You may leave. Yes, Prince. The female officials didn't seem to find it strange that Princess Xia was giving orders in Jade Sky Pavilion. They respectfully bowed and left Jade Sky Pavilion. The East Sea Empress looked at Princess Xia with satisfaction. After all, what Yu Xiajing was about to say might affect Princess Qing Qing's reputation, or even more seriously. Who knew if there were other princesses or spies of the four great clans among the female officials of Jasper Flower Palace? Yu Xiajing, tell me, what happened between Qing Qing and Thunder Immortal? Princess Xia didn't know how to phrase it, so she could only ask ambiguously. Who would have thought that once Princess Xia said that, Yu Xiajing's face turned cold. Anger flashed in her eyes. Even her tone became somewhat ambiguous. She coldly said, "Your Highness, others may not know about this, but how could you not know about it? Back then, my princess only injured you. Now, not only did you injure my princess, you even want to ruin my princess's reputation. Princess Xia, you truly deserve to be called Xia." Slap her. Princess Xia didn't hold back and immediately gave the order without waiting for Yu Xiajing to finish. Yes, Prince. Princess Xia's voice came out of Jade Sky Pavilion, and two female officials immediately responded. Two thin and weak female officials flew in and slapped Yu Xiajing's face. Yu Xiajing stubbornly knelt there, not daring to resist. After two slaps, Yu Xiajing's face was already swollen. You wait. Princess Xia indifferently ordered the two female officials to leave. Then she said to Yu Xiajing, "Qing Qing has always been headstrong and self-opinionated. Empress Dowager sent you to assist Qing Qing to correct her shortcomings and help her deal with things. This is the key to loyalty. Who doesn't know how to ask about others' well-being? Yu Xiajing, as a female official of Jade Flower Palace, you put the cart before the horse. You abandoned your own nature and flattered the princess. Today, you didn't tell the details of the truth, but directly framed me. How should I punish you?" East Sea Empress saw Princess Xia's punishment and felt a trace of displeasure in her heart. But when she heard Princess Xia's words, she couldn't help but be shocked. Although Yu Xiajing was loyal to Princess Qing Qing and seemed to be protecting Princess Qing Qing, from another point of view, she was really harming Qing Qing and pushing Qing Qing towards the cliff. This was because Princess Xia had never mentioned the matter of Princess Qing Qing injuring Princess Xia in front of everyone. This Yu Xiajing only needed to say a few words to. expose the conflict between the two princesses. Moreover, during the battle at Chaomuya, Princess Xixia had still been suppressed and hadn't broken free. How could Princess Xixia have instructed the lightning sage to hurt Princess Qingqing? This was clearly slander. Damn you! East Sea Empress said angrily, I only called you here to ask you some questions, but you didn't answer truthfully and actually slandered Princess Xixia. What are your intentions? Yu Xiaojing didn't think much of it because she understood Princess Qingqing's thoughts the best. Moreover, she had subconsciously made Princess Xixia look bad. When Princess Xixia asked about the lightning sage, Yu Xiaojing's first reaction was, Princess Xixia had set a trap for Princess Qingqing. Thus, she immediately defended Princess Qingqing and wanted to expose Princess Xixia's ugly face and so-called plans. However, Princess Xixia's words immediately made her panic. After all, it was Princess Qingqing who had done this first. Even if Princess Xixia had instigated the lightning sage to take revenge, it was only natural. Furthermore, Princess Xixia hadn't broken free at that time. Moreover, Princess Xixia didn't mention Princess Qingqing at all. Instead, she slapped her. This was a secret warning to her. It didn't matter if she was punished, but what about Princess Qingqing? How could the current Princess Qingqing be a match for Princess Xixia, who was at the peak of her power? Empress, how much is this servant's fault? This servant shouldn't have spoken nonsense. Please punish me, Empress. Yu Xiaojing didn't hesitate to kowtow and beg. Seeing that Yu Xiaojing didn't dare to circulate her energy and that her forehead was bleeding, Princess Xixia didn't say anything. An immortal palace. Although it was superior to a mortal palace, it was still a palace. Princess Xixia was used to fighting in the open and in the dark. She naturally wasn't like Xiaohua. The East Sea Empress naturally wouldn't expect Princess Xixia to plead on Yuxia's behalf. Seeing the bloodstains, she coldly snorted and said, This Empress just said that I hope you all can follow Bai An's example and assist your own princess. In the future, this Empress will also have more decrees to issue. You actually dared to disobey my words. You truly disappoint me. Yes, it's all this servant's fault. Please punish me, Empress. Yu Xiaojing didn't dare to argue and only asked for punishment. East Sea Empress coldly snorted again and didn't say anything else. Yu Xiaojing understood. She lamented in her heart and turned to Princess Xixia. She kowtowed and said, Your Highness, this servant spoke nonsense just now. Please punish me. This matter has nothing to do with my princess. Yu Xiaojing, because you tried to sow discord, I will punish you severely. However, seeing how loyal you are, I'm afraid you've heard those words for a long time and have overthought them. You're also worried about Qingqing. That's why you've said them. Princess Xixia said indifferently. Therefore, I don't intend to punish you. I just want to warn you that if you don't change your ways and offend me again in the future, if I hear any rumors, I won't let you off easily. Yes, this servant understands. Yu Xiaojing's heart relaxed and she stopped kowtowing. Also, Princess Xixia continued, when Qingqing wakes up, you have to tell her not to judge others with her own heart. Many disturbances are just self-inflicted troubles. Yes, this servant understands. Yu Xiaojing didn't dare to say anything else and only nodded. Alright. Princess Xixia waved her hand and said, Rise and answer me. What happened at Chaomu Cliff? Yu Xiaojing stood up and recounted Chaomu Cliff's formation and the battle in detail. Hearing that the lightning reverend was so ruthless that he didn't even care about Princess Qingqing's reputation and directly attacked her chest, the East Sea Empress's face darkened, and Princess Xixia was abnormally embarrassed. Not to mention a descendant of an immortal emperor, even an ordinary female cultivator would be too ashamed to face the world after being humiliated by a man. The Emerald Sky Pavilion was silent. Princess Xixia's mind was spinning rapidly, but she didn't know what to say. After all, no man would do such a thing to a female cultivator. She was doubting the truth of Yu Xiaojing's words. Unfortunately, just as she was about to speak, the East Sea Empress unhappily said, Xixia. Yes, Empress. Princess Xixia hurriedly stood up. This matter. The Fortune Gate must give the immortal palace an explanation. The East Sea Empress said, "The Lightning Reverend is a Taoist at the Grand Ascension stage. If he wanted to injure Qing Qing or obtain the Milky Way Grand Formations disk, he had many ways to do so. How could such a frivolous method be something a man would do?" The story of the immortal world and the desolate era is in everyone's hands. The third place tearfully asks for subscriptions. If the subscriptions exceed 1,000, the immortal world will be opened. Next, I ask for monthly votes. If the monthly votes exceed 100, I'll add more chapters. Third, I ask for recommendations. If the monthly votes exceed 1,000, I'll add more chapters. How Xiaohua went against the light to become a true saint will depend on everyone. The third place thanks. Chapter 4670. This. Princess Zixia's face was burning hot as she blamed the Lightning Reverend in her heart. Needless to say, Xiaohua was the one who ordered the Lightning Reverend to injure Princess Qingqing. However, Princess Zixia also understood that Xiaohua would never allow the Lightning Reverend to do such a despicable thing. If Yu Xiaojing's words were true, then it could only be the Lightning Reverend's own matter and had nothing to do with Xiaohua. The problem was that the Lightning Reverend was the Fortune Gate's second master. He represented the Fortune Gate and Xiaohua. What is the Lightning Reverend thinking? Princess Zixia grumbled inwardly. How could he be bewitched by Qingqing's beauty at such a crucial time? Did he do such a foolish thing? Unfortunately, how could Princess Zixia know that the Lightning Reverend was not a complete person, let alone know the difference between men and women? Qingqing is His Majesty's descendant. Her status is the same as yours. The East Sea Empress scolded. You are now engaged to the Fortune Gate's first master, yet you allowed Qingqing to be molested by the Fortune Gate's second master. This matter. Even if Yu Xiaojing was not lying, if others heard it, they would blame it on you. Zixia, you have to return Qingqing's innocence, or I won't be able to answer to His Majesty and all the women in the world. Thump. Princess Zixia's heart sank. The East Sea Empress' words were clear. She had to return Princess Qingqing's innocence, but how? There were only two ways to return Princess Qingqing's innocence. The first way was for the Lightning Reverend to commit suicide in front of everyone as an apology. If the Lightning Reverend ceased to exist, Princess Qingqing's innocence would be preserved. However, as a Tao Gate's Grand Ascension stage expert, would the Lightning Reverend commit suicide as an apology? Who in the world had the ability to kill him? This path was obviously impossible. Then, there was only the second way left. The second way was for the Lightning Reverend to marry Princess Qingqing, and there would be no innocence between husband and wife. However, from Princess Zixia's perspective, how could she allow the Lightning Reverend to marry Princess Qingqing? After fighting with Princess Qingqing for so many years, she knew Princess Qingqing's methods better than anyone else. How could she allow a scourge like Princess Qingqing to enter the Fortune Gate? How could she allow Princess Qingqing to share her power in the Fortune Gate? How could she make things difficult for herself? And then let her happy life fall into a harem fight? Moreover, Princess Zixia understood that the Immortal Palace would not give up on annexing and coveting the Fortune Gate just because she had married into the Fortune Gate. Once Princess Qingqing entered the Fortune Gate, and Xiaohua ascended, the entire Fortune Gate would fall into chaos. At the very least, the Fortune Gate would be divided into two, and Xiaohua's painstaking efforts would go down the drain. Mother, Princess Zixia couldn't help but ask, why are you forcing the boy like this? Force? The East Sea Empress smiled faintly. She naturally understood Princess Zixia's thoughts and replied, in Mother's eyes, you are Mother's princess, and Qingqing is also Mother's princess. Mother is happy that you have found a husband you like, and Qingqing is also happy that Qingqing has found a husband she likes. Hearing this, Princess Zixia immediately thought of how Princess Qingqing and Princess Miao Miao were trying to cover things up. She even thought of Princess Qingqing's shame and anger when she heard that she had been bestowed the title of Princess Zixia. That kind of shame and anger was not because she had been bestowed the title of Princess Zixia, but because she had found her husband first. Moreover, Princess Qingqing also understood that she would definitely stop her and the Lightning Reverend from getting together. that little bit of affection in her heart would definitely come to an end. XNXN, you have your own happiness, and Qingqing also has her own happiness. You can't stop Qingqing's happiness because of your own happiness. The East Sea Empress said with a smile. Moreover, you have no right to stop Qingqing from finding her own happiness. The East Sea Empress's words were very dignified, but in Princess Xia's ears, they were ear-piercing. As a mother, it was absolutely natural for her to make such plans for her daughter. However, if an empress were to make such plans for her own princess, then there were too many implications. When familial love met power, familial love could only turn into snow under the sun, especially the princess of the immortal palace. In an instant, Princess Xia made a decision. Even if Princess Qingqing really fell in love with the Lightning Reverend, she would absolutely not let this marriage be consummated. It had to be said that Princess Xia's decision was just as Princess Qingqing had expected. Empress. Just as Princess Xia was about to speak, ding, thing, thing. Outside the Emerald Sky Pavilion, 9 bell tolls rang out. As the sound passed, the outline of the entire Emerald Sky Pavilion turned into lines. These lines then shattered, turning into inscriptions of armor. The inscriptions of armor scattered all over the place, and in a moment, they turned into a part of the jade. The East Sea Empress said no more. She stood up and said, "The Jade Pool gathering is about to begin. I will go and preside over the Jade Pool. All of you wait here." Except for Xia, who is different from before, everyone else has their own seats according to etiquette. "Yes, Empress." Seeing that the Jade Pool gathering was about to begin, even Princess Xia didn't dare to delay. Everyone stood up and respectfully answered. Seeing the Empress leave, Princess Miao Miao looked at Princess Xia, then at Yu Xiajing, and said to Yu Xiajing, "Go and see Princess Qingqing for me." "Yes, Your Highness." Yu Xiajing agreed. After bowing to Princess Xia, she led Princess Miao Miao away. Meanwhile, and flew over. Looking at the unfriendly Princess Xia, she whispered, "Your Highness." Princess Xia didn't pay attention to Bai. Instead, she looked at the Empress back with narrowed eyes. No one knew what she was thinking. After half a cup of tea's time, she waved her hand and said, "Let's go to Bai," and didn't know what happened, but when she saw Princess Miao Miao and Yu Xiajing flying away, she understood that it must have something to do with Princess Qingqing. She didn't dare to ask and followed Princess Xia. Xiaohua, Celestial Being, and Thunderclap Immortal entered Lingyun's side palace under the escort of the crowd and the demonic beasts. What greeted them was a huge dome of heaven. Above the dome of heaven, the sun, the moon, and the stars were scattered all over like flags. Sunlight poured down from the sun and the moon. However, the brilliance of the sun and moon couldn't cover the brilliance of the stars. Hundreds of millions of stars followed the sun and moon across the sky, revealing mysterious trajectories. At the same time, waves of obscure fluctuations fell from the sky and rippled through the entire palace. Below the palace was a boundless land. On the land, there were many mountain ranges. Some extended horizontally, some fell vertically. The crisscrossing paths formed huge squares. These squares were like farmlands. However, there were no crops in the farmlands, but cities and villages. The scenery within each square was different. As Xiaohua's gaze swept across, he felt as if he had seen through the world of mortals. Amitba! Namo Dipankara Archaic Buddha's familiar chanting voice resounded from a distance away. Similarly, beside Namo Dipankara Archaic Buddha, Namo Maitreya, who had left some time ago, also chanted. Namo Maitreya. When Xiaohua saw the Maitreya Buddha world-honored one, he was shocked. Indeed, he had always thought that the Maitreya Buddha world-honored one was still on Shenhua continent and had not come out. Even when the Maitreya Buddha world-honored one had said that he would leave quietly, he did not care at all. Who knew that? The Maitreya Buddha world-honored one's cultivation was actually so powerful. Amitba. Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent. He put his palms together and said, "Disciple greets the two revered worlds." "You don't have to be so courteous, Lord Guanyin." The Dipankara Archaic Buddha was very satisfied. He raised his hand and helped Xiaohua up, although you're my Buddhism's Namo Great Compassionate Guanyin Bodhisattva, you're still not my Thunder Sound Temple's Arhat. You don't have to greet me as a disciple. I wouldn't dare. Xiao Hua said respectfully, since disciple has attained the Buddha fruit, I should understand the meaning of this Buddha fruit. I should face the world's past and future. Otherwise, what's the meaning of this Buddha fruit? Amitabha, Amitabha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha chanted and stepped aside. Namo Maitreya. Namo Maitreya stepped forward and said, previously, when I called you Xiao Danyue and went through life and death with you, I felt that you had wisdom and could become my Buddhism's disciple. However, I didn't expect Danyue to attain the Buddha fruit of my Buddhism. Congratulations. Now that you've said so, disciple feels even more ashamed. Xiao Hua smiled and said, if it weren't for your advice, disciple wouldn't have known the true essence of Buddhism. You're wrong, revered world. Namo Maitreya said seriously, Buddha is in everyone's heart. As long as you're merciful and treat the world well, you'll be able to see your own Buddha. What I can do is only to tell you how to see Buddha. As for whether you can attain the Buddha fruit, that's up to you. Namo Maitreya. Xiao Hua smiled and said, disciple understands. It's good that you've understood. Amitabha, Amitabha. Namo Maitreya stood by the side and said a few words to Xiao Hua in his heart. Then Xiao Hua, Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva behind the Dipankara archaic Buddha world exalted and Namo Maitreya Bodhisattva Samantabhadra behind the Namo Maitreya Bodhisattva. After greeting each other, they looked toward the main seat of the hall. At this moment, a loud rumbling sound resounded from the hall. 4 mountain peaks shot out from the ground. Following the appearance of the mountain peaks, the ground began to change. Cities and villages were constantly changing, and the men and women within were also being destroyed. Even in the sky, at the top of the 4 mountain peaks, 4 layers of clouds that resembled foothills appeared. These clouds changed along with the mountain peaks' protrusion. After the rumbling sound disappeared, the mountain peaks stopped moving. They landed right under the feet of the demon race, dragon race, Buddhist sect, and Confucian cultivators. As the golden-winged great rock and the mystic armored pentaceratops landed, another layer of demonic clouds rushed out from the peak of the mountain and landed at the foot of the mountain. In an instant, the entire mountain peak transformed into a monstrous demon race. This demon race had 8 arms and 8 legs. Their 8 legs stood firmly on the ground like boulders. The 8 arms were raised respectfully, lifting the 2 great sages of the Great Sage Hall into the air. Looking at the Dragon Island's 2nd Elder Aoe and the Dragon King Ao Qian of the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace, they landed on the mountain peak. Whoosh! The same layer of dragon chi descended from the peak of the mountain and instantly covered the entire mountain peak. The mountain peak transformed into a huge black tortoise, supporting the 2 dragons. Clang, clang, clang. A series of knocking sounds resounded from another mountain peak. At the place where the Maitreya Buddha World Lord and the Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord landed, a faint Buddhist light descended, transforming the entire mountain peak into a lotus platform. On top of the 3 transmogrified mountain peaks, thick chains of inscriptions descended like flood dragons, letting out rumbling sounds. When the Grand Chi was retracted, an indomitable scroll appeared beneath Immortal Emperor Go Qin and Dongfang Qionghao's feet, supporting them there. The 4 mountain peaks transformed separately. Only Xiao Hua, the Thunderbolt Immortal, and the heavenly beings stood there quietly. There was no mountain peak beneath their feet. Xiao Hua didn't show any abnormalities. He only looked at Immortal Emperor Go Qin with a smile on his face. I don't know how many years it has been since a Taoist cultivator entered Lingyun Side Hall. Immortal Emperor Go Qin said with a smile, I didn't expect to see a mortal enemy of Confucian cultivators in my Lingyun Side Hall. Now that I'm facing Master Xiao, I can't help but feel a sense of absurdity in my heart. To be honest, Master Xiao, if it were someone else, I wouldn't hesitate to use the power of thunder to kill you right now. I believe, even if Master Xiao has reached the Exalt realm, you still can't face the combined forces of the Confucian cultivators, the dragon race, the demon race, and the Buddhist sect, right? Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows slightly. He didn't show any signs of panic on his face. He only smiled faintly and said, "I admit that what your majesty said is the truth. I even know that even without the help of the demon race's great sage, the dragon race's elder, and the two exalts of the Buddhist sect, your majesty can still kill me. Maybe your majesty dealt with the primordial chaos ancestor like this? However, if your majesty wants to deal with me, then you must be prepared to be killed. I believe that after your majesty makes a move, there's a possibility of you being killed by others. Don't you think so, Dongfang family head?" Dongfang Qianghao didn't seem to be embarrassed. He smiled and said, "I don't know what your majesty is thinking. I only know that since enlightened Master Shao is a Confucian cultivator and is also our Master Shao, I didn't know the inside story and was blinded by greed. I wanted to attack Master Shao. But who would have thought that not only was I unable to defeat Master Shao, but I also fell into your majesty's trap. Therefore, not only my Dongfang family, but the entire 4 great families have made a decision. As long as Master Shao is alive, the 4 great families will never attack Master Shao." "What about after I ascend?" Xiaohua asked with a faint smile. "Who knows what will happen in the future?" Dongfang Qianghao shrugged and looked at immortal Emperor Go-Qin. He also replied with a faint smile, "When the militarists entered the immortal palace, they probably didn't expect today's situation, right?" Cough cough. Immortal Emperor Go-Qin coughed twice and smiled. "This is the secret of our Confucian cultivators. How can we use it as a joke?" "Hi, your majesty, you're considered the leader of the militarists. How can you not even know how to use words? How can you use the word joke here?" Dongfang Qianghao laughed and refuted immortal Emperor Go-Qin. "The human race has always been like this." The profound armored pentahorned dragon calmly interrupted. "They can't stand others being stronger than them. Whenever there's an opportunity, they'll use it to suppress others. I think the 4 great families can't stand the militarists occupying the immortal palace. That's why they came up with a new plan, right?" Hearing the profound armored pentahorn dragon's words, Xiaohua looked at immortal Emperor Go-Qin and Dongfang Qianghao, who seemed to be united on the outside but were actually at odds with each other. He then looked at the Dipankara archaic Buddha and the Maitreya Buddha on the Buddha lotus. Finally, Xiaohua's gaze landed on Aoe and the Dragon King of the East Sea, who were both suspicious and fearful of each other. He lamented in his heart, "Hee, this era is the best era for Taoism to rise. I'm lucky to be in this era and be able to stand at the peak of supremacy with my Taoism cultivation. This era is also the worst era. Disasters are happening everywhere. Now the apocalypse is coming. If we don't deal with it carefully, I'm afraid we won't be able to survive this." "Dragon Sage, you're wrong." The Dragon King of the East Sea, Ao Qian, smiled. "It's not just the human race. Some of the demon race and dragon race do the same." That's right, that's right." The profound armored pentahorned dragon mocked. "I heard that some of the dragon race have even been conferred titles by the immortal palace. No wonder the dragon palace of the 4 seas is causing so much trouble. The dragon palace of the 4 seas is much less troublesome than the great sage palace." Ao Qian retorted without holding back. "No matter what, the dragon race of the dragon palace of the 4 seas is still subordinate to the dragon palace of the dragon island." Roar. The profound armored pentahorn dragon's roar shook the heavens. The space around the mountain where the demon race was located suddenly collapsed and spread rapidly in all directions. Of course, this spatial collapse only reached the edge of the mountain where the demon race was located. It was blocked by a layer of invisible restrictions. Pieces of inscriptions fell from the restrictions like scraps of paper. Amitabha Buddha. Excellent, excellent. The Dipankara archaic Buddha's world lord chanted, "Dear Transcendents, the reason why we've gathered here today is to discuss how to deal with the omen of world destruction. Why have you started a conflict before we've even spoken?" The Dipankara archaic Buddha is right. The Go-Qin immortal emperor laughed. "Today, the 3 great continents' supreme cultivators are gathered here at the Lingyun Side Hall. How can we speak without thinking? This happened because of me. I should apologize to Master Shao. Come, announce my decree. Then, the great general of the Sun Palace, Sun Jian, appeared in the middle of the hall. He held a decree in his hand and started reciting, Ancestors, Fortune Gates Xiaohua. This decree was exactly the same as the one the East Sea Empress gave to Princess Xixia. After everyone heard it, different expressions appeared on their faces. However, these expressions only lasted for a moment, and no one could see them clearly. Hearing this, Xiaohua was a bit dumbfounded. This decree came too suddenly, exceeding Xiaohua's expectations. Naturally, he was overjoyed. However, many thoughts flashed through his mind, such as Xue Xue, Fairy Jing, Fairy Hong Xia, Jiu Xia, and even Huang Mingxiang. After a while, he smiled bitterly. Damn it. The Dawn Rain continent has a red cloud, and the hidden immortal continent has a purple cloud. Does that mean there's a green cloud in the immortal world? Another rosy cloud in the divine world? I've refined the 7 colors bone. I'm going to fight against Rosy Cloud for the rest of my life. Ha! Congratulations, Dragon Master Xiao, congratulations. The golden-winged great rock laughed. I thought the Jade Pool gathering today was a Hongmen banquet. Who would have thought it would be a wedding? I'll have to toast Master Xiao a few more times. The golden-winged great rock congratulated from the bottom of his heart. However, the others' congratulations were different. While they were congratulating him, they were also secretly cursing the Go-Qin Immortal Emperor for his sinister methods. Just a moment ago, he said he wanted to kill Xiaohua, but in a moment, he married his 9th princess to Xiaohua and pulled Xiaohua into the Immortal Palace. Xiaohua rubbed his nose as he looked at everyone's congratulations, and he laughed bitterly. Thank you, fellow Taoists. However, I haven't even been able to sit on a seat after arriving at the Soaring Cloud Pavilion. Looks like His Majesty hasn't been at ease with me. Moreover, I'm afraid everyone knows what the 9 provinces Great Formation is. However, who knows when I'll have the strength to set it up? I'm afraid His Majesty has painted a big picture for me. Master Xiao Lei, could it be that you're not satisfied with my arrangement? The Go-Qin Immortal Emperor pretended to be angry. If it doesn't work, I'll take back this decree. Sigh. Xiaohua said helplessly. His Majesty has placed a new happiness in front of me. How can I not accept it? At this moment, Xiaohua also understood why the Go-Qin Immortal Emperor didn't release the Taoist Gates Mountain first. Instead, he waited for Xiaohua to accept the decree. Sure enough, following Xiaohua's agreement, a green mountain appeared beneath Xiaohua and the others. Whoosh! Just as Xiaohua, the Thunderbolt Immortal, and the heavenly being stepped onto the mountain, several bolts of lightning descended from the top of the mountain. In an instant, the entire mountain transformed into a massive lightning bolt, lifting the 3 Grand Ascension Stage Taoist Gates Grand Ascension Stage cultivators into the air. At this moment, the 5 mountain peaks were arranged in the shape of 5 stars under the dome of the sky. The fluctuations within the Lingyun side hall gradually calmed down, and the 5 stars gradually reached a balance. Seeing Xiaohua, the Thunderbolt Immortal, and the heavenly being sitting on top of the lightning bolts, the Go-Qin Immortal Emperor looked around and exchanged a glance with the Dipankara Immortal Buddha and Aoe. He then looked at Xiaohua and said with a smile, Master Xiao Lei, to be honest, the 9 provinces Great Formation is the immortal defense formation of our heavenly court. It's not something that can be set up by ordinary cultivators. In fact, it wouldn't be easy for 9 supremes of the same cultivation to set it up. However, Master Xiao Lei might not be able to set it up, but Master Xiao Lei can ask your Taoist Gate seniors to help set it up. My decree didn't say that you can't ask for help. Sure enough, Xinxin was right. Xiaohua thought to himself, although not every Supreme Being cultivator knows about the existence of Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu, Immortal Emperor Go-Qin, the elders of Dragon Island, and the 2 Buddhist lords of the Buddhist sect must know. When they first joined forces to deal with the Grand Mist Ancestor, they might not have been able to kill him. They were only afraid of angering Su Ji, which was why they suppressed the Grand Mist Ancestor. Now, I've appeared out of nowhere and surpassed the Grand Mist Ancestor in one fell swoop. They also see me as Su Ji's disciple. In particular, I have a close relationship with Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu in the Star Moon Palace. The disciples of the 4 great families know about it. Even if the 4 patriarchs didn't know about it before, they know about it now. Therefore, they don't dare to force me too much. Since immortal Emperor Go-Chen didn't point it out, Xiaohua simply pretended to be confused. He asked curiously, "Your Majesty, what do you mean? Which Taoist gate seniors can I ask for help?" Immortal Emperor Go-Chen raised his eyebrows and his eyes lit up. He smiled and said, "Master Xiaolei, could it be?" "Your Majesty, I don't know what you're talking about." Xiaohua refused to admit it. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen replied, "Master Xiaolei, do you think that every Confucian family is as stupid as the Changsun family and Yuanshi? Provoking Zhai Xinglu for no reason? This is the information I obtained about the Star Moon Palace. Take a look and you'll understand." Immortal Emperor Go-Chen raised his hand and pointed. A book-like jade eye appeared in front of Xiaohua. Xiaohua took the jade eye and a light flashed in his eyes. His expression changed greatly. This was because the jade eye recorded the matter of Su Ji and Fairy Xing Yu very clearly. Some of it was known to Xiaohua, and some of it was unknown to him. In other words, these were things that Su Ji and Fairy Xing Yu deliberately concealed. After the jade eye, there were also records of Xiaohua and Su Ji's experiences in the Star Moon Palace. Wherever there were people, there were records. During the period when Xiaohua and Su Ji were separated, Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu's actions were also clearly recorded. In other words, there were still spies of the Immortal Palace among the disciples who had been selected by Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu. Alas! Xiaohua sighed and put away the light. He smiled bitterly and thought to himself, even immortals are only individuals. In terms of combat power, no one in the 3 continents can compare to them. But in terms of other things, they can't compare to an organization. Even the Star Moon Palace established by Fairy Xingyu can't compare to the Immortal Palace. How is it? Immortal Emperor Go-Chen said with a smile, "At this point, Master Xiaolei can speak frankly, right? Since we're here, does your Majesty not know what happened?" Xiaohua returned the jade eye to Immortal Emperor Go-Chen and replied thoughtfully, "You still have to ask me?" "Of course I don't know what happened." Immortal Emperor Go-Chen said word by word, "Otherwise, I wouldn't ask you." After the disappearance of the Star Moon Palace, these 2 seniors had never appeared again. "Tell me, how can I be at ease?" So your Majesty doesn't know what happened." Xiaohua said with a smile, "I thought your Majesty was investigating the world with the supreme heavenly mirror." "Master Xiaolei," Immortal Emperor Go-Chen said with some displeasure, "at this point, I've already given you all the glory that I can give you. Can't I wait for you to tell me the truth?" Xiaohua shrugged and replied, "Your Majesty, didn't I say it before? I don't know when I'll have the strength to set up this big array. Naturally, it's impossible for me to ask the seniors of the Dao sect to help me." "Are you sure?" Immortal Emperor Go-Chen asked worriedly. Xiaohua frowned and thought for a moment, thinking about the pros and cons of telling the truth. In fact, the existence of the immortals might be the reason why the Confucian cultivators didn't dare to kill the Dao sect's cultivators too openly, or it might be the reason why the immortals, Buddhas, and demons suppressed the Grand Mist ancestor, or it might be the reason why they were patient with him. But in the end, these were all possibilities. The immortals were only a temporary deterrent. The most important thing was to have strength. Xiaohua might not be able to fight against the Immortal Palace, Buddhist sect, and demon clan, but against any one of them, the fortune gate wouldn't be at a complete disadvantage. Therefore, the presence of the immortals didn't matter much. Moreover, the immortals didn't show up, so how could Immortal Emperor Go-Chen not know that the 2 immortals had left? Even if he deliberately hid it, he couldn't. Therefore, Xiaohua raised his head, looked at Immortal Emperor Go-Chen, and nodded with certainty. Unexpectedly, Immortal Emperor Go-Chen didn't feel relieved as Xiaohua thought. Instead, a trace of worry appeared on his face, and he sighed. Xiaohua didn't know if Immortal Emperor Go-Chen's sigh was fake, but he at least knew that because of Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu's departure, Immortal Emperor Go-Chen's plan to use him to set up the 9 provinces Great Formation had failed. Of course, Xiaohua also believed that with immortal Emperor Go Chen's scheming mind, he would never place his bet on the immortals. After all, he had other plans. Sure enough, after immortal Emperor Go Chen finished speaking, he looked at Aoe and the Dipankara archaic Buddha, then lowered his head and didn't say anything, as if he was transmitting something. At this time, the Lingyun side palace was silent again. Even the strong golden-winged great rock felt that the atmosphere was a little strange. He opened his mouth and wanted to ask Xiaohua a few words, but when he thought of how close Xiaohua was now to the immortal palace, he wondered if he should avoid something. It had to be said that immortal Emperor Go Chen's decree suddenly brought the relationship between the immortal palace and the fortune gate very close. Seeing immortal Emperor Go Chen pondering, Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly said, "Your Majesty, this Xiao has something to tell you." "What is it?" Immortal Emperor Go Chen was slightly puzzled by Xiaohua's seriousness. "Thundermaster Xiao, please speak." "Cough cough, Your Majesty, the star-plucking tower is now my fortune gate's property." Xiaohua coughed and smiled. "Moreover, in order to express my feelings to Princess Zixia, this Xiao has even handed the star-plucking tower over to Princess Zixia to manage." Ah! Immortal Emperor Go Chen was obviously stunned. However, in the next instant he smiled and said, "Thundermaster Xiao is indeed a great man with deep feelings. This emperor admires you from the bottom of his heart." Damn it, what great man. He must have been discussing with Aoe and the Dipankara archaic Buddha about how to divide the stars and moons, right? Now that he knows that the star-plucking tower has been given to Exen, he immediately changed his attitude. Xiaohua cursed inwardly. Oh, this Xiao understands now. This guy only mentioned immortals but didn't ask about the star-plucking tower. Could it be that he intends to interfere? Damn it, this Xiao shouldn't have said that. When he interferes, I'll teach him a lesson. Just as immortal Emperor Go Chen finished speaking, Dongfang Qianghao seized the opportunity and said, if that's the case, the Yuan clan and the Zhangsun clan should be warned. Their hands have stretched too far." Hearing Dongfang Qianghao's words, Xiaohua suddenly understood. The black-clothed men he met in the star-plucking tower in front of the Crimson Earth River were the tower lords of the star-plucking tower who were preparing to betray him. It turned out that they were instigated by the Yuan clan and the Zhangsun clan to betray him. However, thinking about it, it made sense. Powerful clans like the Immortal Palace and the four great clans might know of Fairy Xing Yu's origins, so they naturally wouldn't harbor any thoughts of doing anything to her. The Yuan clan and the Zhangsun clan were only first-rate clans. Seeing how prosperous the star-plucking tower was, it was inevitable that they would covet it. Immortal Emperor Go Chen sneered, "Who dares to covet the star-plucking tower under my 9th princess's control?" "That's good." Xiaohua smiled and said, "This saves my fortune gate from taking action." Immortal Emperor Go Chen then transmitted a few words to the Dragon Island's second elder, as if they were discussing something. Xiaohua frowned and said, "Your Majesty, if possible, should we invite the Grand Mist Ancestor to the Lingyun side palace? Although his forces aren't too strong, we need to discuss how to deal with the apocalypse. His sky-bearing palace might be able to help." Immortal Emperor Go Chen stopped and looked at Xiaohua with surprise. He smiled and said, "Master Xiao Lei, could it be that you think the jade pupil that brat Grand Mist Ancestor took out is his true strength?" Xiaohua shrugged, his face indifferent as he replied, "Then how much strength you bring out has nothing to do with this Xiao. This Xiao doesn't put him in my eyes at all. This Xiao only feels that everyone is responsible for the rise and fall of a country. He should also bear some responsibility for the survival of the 3 continents. Moreover, he is still a member of my Dao Gate and is this Xiao's senior. This Xiao feels that he has the qualifications to stand here." Good. The Golden Rock cheered, "Master Xiao Long, it seems like you are still the Master Xiao in this sage's eyes. You are not the kind of person who forgets his friends for a girl." Forgets his friends for a girl? Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He looked at the Golden Rock and said, "Sage Peng, is this Xiao so unbearable? How can you not be?" The Golden Rock shouted, "Old Go Chen is Master Lei and stuffed his daughter into your arms. You even helped him escape from the longevity town. How can you say? Cough cough. Without waiting for the golden rock to finish, Dongfang Qianghao coughed twice and said, Sage Peng, the past is the past. Don't mention it again. Pa. The golden rock laughed and shouted, Indeed, indeed. If this sage was suppressed, he would definitely kill all his enemies after escaping. Then he would enter the great sage hall openly. However, the human race is a little strange. Look at that brat Hong Meng. Back then he was played by us until he was. Now that he has escaped, he doesn't repent and keeps coming here. Do you think he's tired of living? Could it be that he wants to be stuffed into the eye of the sea? Sage Peng is wrong. Aoe said with a smile, there was indeed a reason why I didn't kill him back then. Today, Hong Meng dared to come to the Lingyun side hall. Naturally, he has something to rely on. Isn't it just that his strength has reached the peak of the 3 continents? The golden rock sneered, if I'm not happy, I will still kill him. The Yin Yang Illustration Handbook. The mystic armored pentagram smiled bitterly. Sage Peng, have you forgotten about this treasure? This brat Hong Meng can be considered a genius. He actually refined the treasure that suppressed him. Now, even if you want to kill him, it won't be easy. There's also Xiao Longshi. Ao Qian, the lord of the East Sea Dragon Palace, said with a smile, this brat Hong Meng has a good idea. He and Xiao Longshi are both from the human Dao sect. As long as Xiao Longshi is here, Xiao Longshi will definitely not let anyone touch him. Furthermore, I am certain that the disciples of the Sky-Bearing Palace Hall have already been sent to every corner of the hidden immortal continent. If anything happens to Hong Meng, if news of Xiao Longshi colluding with immortal Emperor Go Chen and working together to kill the cultivators of the Dao sect will definitely spread. Plus, with the matter of Xiao Longshi and Princess Zixia, who won't believe this rumor? At that time, not only will Xiao Longshi's reputation be damaged, even the immortal emperor will be implicated. Maybe some stories will even spread. Immortal Emperor Go Chen snorted, Hong Meng's strength is nothing, but his scheming is 100 times stronger than Xiao Longshi's. Xiao Longshi, you must be careful. Ha! Dongfang Qianghao laughed and pointed at Immortal Emperor Go Chen. Your Majesty, Xiao Hua is a Taoist Mahayana realm cultivator. He is an enemy of us Confucian cultivators, but this old official can't hear any hostility from your words. Minister Dongfang, you are also a Confucian cultivator and an important official of the Immortal Palace. How about this? This emperor will order you to lead the Dongfang family, lead the disciples of the 4 great clans to attack the soaring Dragon Mountain range. What do you think? Immortal Emperor Go Chen asked with a faint smile. Dongfang Qianghao didn't hesitate and said seriously, of course. However, back then when we suppressed Hong Meng, we had to involve the demon race and the Buddhist sect. Today, the Fortune Gate is much stronger than Hong Meng. This old official wants to ask for your Majesty's favor. In the soaring cloud-side palace, we will attack together with the Great Sage Hall, Thunder Sound Temple, and the Dragon Island and Exquisite Temple. Dongfang Qianghao and the others' words were full of ridicule, but in fact, there was a hint of flattery. This was extremely rare from the supreme cultivators of the 3 continents. Of course, this wasn't only because of Xiao Hua's strength. It was also because the current situation was very delicate. Immortal Emperor Go Chen took the initiative and used Princess Zixia to win over Xiao Hua. If the Dongfang family, the dragon race, and the demon race wanted to win over Xiao Hua, they had to do it from another angle. Otherwise, the balance of the 3 continents would be disrupted, and who knew which side would suffer? However, Xiao Hua's mind wasn't here. He frowned and said, everyone, this Xiao has already said that the Fortune Gate is the same as the Xiao country. It will never be a hegemon. As long as this Xiao is here, I will restrain my disciples. You don't have to worry. The 3 continents are showing signs of the end of the world. Strange insects have appeared at the borders of the 3 continents and will soon sweep towards the central region. We don't have much time left. If we don't discuss a suitable countermeasure, the 3 continents will be in danger. Amitabha, Lord Guanyin. The Dipankara Archaic Buddha smiled and said, You keep saying that the world is showing signs of the end of the world, but have you really seen the end of the world? Xiaohua was at a loss for words. Of course, he couldn't say that he had seen the end of the world in the ruins. If that brat Primordial Meng was here, he definitely wouldn't rush us like this, nor would he say such things. Dongfang Qianghao smiled and said, "He only knows how to wait. Only by waiting will there be benefits. He only hopes that everyone can start from the latest chapters. The story of the immortal world and the desolate era is in everyone's hands." The third place winner tearfully asks for subscriptions. If the subscriptions exceed 1,000, the immortal world will be opened. If the monthly votes exceed 100, the next chapter will be opened. If the monthly votes exceed 1,000, the next chapter will be opened. How Xiaohua went against the light to become a martial saint will depend on everyone. The third place winner thanks everyone. Chapter 4671. Benefits. When Xiaohua heard this word, he couldn't help but burst into laughter. He had never taken the benefits of the 3 continents seriously. As such, he had never thought about it. Yet, many people who talked about the people of the world had placed benefits in their hearts. Could it be? After Xiaohua understood, he said with righteous indignation, "You're not discussing how to resist the world exterminating strange insects here in the Lingyun Side Hall. Instead, you're discussing how to divide the benefits?" Thunder Master Xiao is wrong. Dongfang Qianghao replied without the slightest hint of awkwardness. "We're discussing how to resist the world exterminating strange insects, but at the same time, we're also dividing the areas of influence." Amitabha. The Dipankara Archaic Buddha's world lord chanted, "Wasn't this matter caused by Banti Guan Yin?" "Sai, I understand now." Xiaohua nodded slightly. "If we don't divide the areas of influence, how can we determine who is resisting the strange insects? If we didn't find a suitable place for our Fortune Gate disciples in the 3 continents and 4 seas, how can you let our Fortune Gate disciples resist the strange insects?" "Indeed." The profound armored Pentaceratops nodded. "That's why the immortal emperor didn't invite that brat Grand Mist to the Lingyun Side Hall. He's not qualified." It's precisely because the Grand Mist ancestor saw through the true meaning of the Jade Lake's gathering that he was willing to shamelessly wait outside. He was willing to reveal part of his forces in order to obtain the qualifications to enter. Xiaohua said slowly, "Because today's Jade Lake gathering is a grand event to divide the forces of the world. After today, he won't be qualified to stand on the stage of the 3 continents. What can be obtained with just a few words today will be obtained with blood and battle tomorrow. How can he be willing to withdraw so easily?" Immortal Emperor Gochen replied meaningfully. "Good." Xiaohua nodded and said resolutely, "If that's the case, how do you intend to send my Fortune Gate away?" Thunder Master Xiao. Immortal Emperor Gochen said unhappily, "How can you say that you're sending us away? Your Fortune Gate is now the publicly acknowledged mighty force of the 3 continents. Even I had to come out to welcome you when you came to participate in the Jade Lake gathering. Do I need to pay so much attention to you just sending us away?" "All right. Your Majesty, everyone, forgive me for speaking bluntly." Xiaohua really wanted to let them go to the ruins to see the miserable state of the dragon race being slaughtered by that strange insect. He really wanted to beat these supreme beings who were addicted to benefits awake with a single blow. However, he had no other way and could only earnestly advise, "This Xiao is truly somewhat disappointed. This Xiao is not interested in the so-called division of power. This Xiao is only interested in how to resist and kill these strange insects. This Xiao has never seen Armageddon, and I don't know if any of you have, but this Xiao has seen that strange insect. Truly formidable. Master Xiao." Aoe smiled and said, "Don't you think too highly of us? Others might not know how powerful that strange insect is, but the Dragon Clan of my Dragon Island and the Dragon Clan of the 4 Seas know. A strange insect had killed countless dragons. How could the Dragon Island not pay attention to it? Moreover, the West Sea Dragon King went missing, the Dragon Clan and the Oceanic Clan suffered heavy casualties, the demon realm of the 1,000 demons sacred realm disappeared, the Demon King and great demons were killed, and the guardian heavenly kings of the Pure Land was also killed. How could we not pay attention to it? However, ordinary wars require troops to set up formations. Fighting against the world-exterminating strange insect isn't a one-on-one battle. We have to plan for the long term. Immortal Emperor Go-Chin sighed. Amitba. The Dipankara Archaic Buddha also pressed his palms together and said, "My Thunder Monastery has already sent Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and other Buddhas to lead guardian heavenly kings and other Buddhist soldiers to the borders of the Blessed Land world to defend against the world-exterminating strange insect and prevent it from invading the center of the Blessed Land world. My great sage Hall's scarlet flame vermilion bird, nether demonic dragon spider, and 5-colored sea god shell have already led the demon race to the borders of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. Within the great sage hall, the heaven-defying thunder phoenix and the flying feather void beast are left to guard. Master Shao." Immortal Emperor Go-Chin smiled and said, "I have already sent troops to the borders of the buried immortal mainland. The 4 great families and the 100 schools of thought have already sent troops. Did your star-plucking tower not receive any news of this?" Xiaohua also smiled and said, "The star-plucking tower is currently under Princess Zixia's control. If she doesn't tell this Xiao wouldn't dare to casually ask her." "Please don't." Immortal Emperor Go-Chin curled his lips and said, "You are the sect master of the Fortune Gate, and she is only your wife. You have to be clear about who the head of the Fortune Gate is. Don't regret it in the end." Xiaohua opened his mouth wide and looked at Immortal Emperor Go-Chin in a daze with an exaggerated expression. If this was the secular world, how could a father-in-law speak to his son-in-law like this? Xiaohua suddenly thought of something called the Flower Medicine Palace and couldn't help but chuckle. "Of course, I invited Master Xiao here today because I have a difficult matter to discuss with you." The East Sea Dragon Palace Lord Ao Qian said, "Also, I have a few difficult matters to discuss with you all." Xiaohua smiled and said, "This difficult matter is naturally. Where should my Fortune Gate's disciples be stationed?" Previously, this Xiao didn't have a clue, but seeing that no one else spoke, and only immortal friend Ao Qian spoke, this Xiao somewhat understood. "I presume that before this Xiao arrived, everyone had already discussed this matter, right? Since Master Xiao is so straightforward, this king will also get straight to the point." Seeing that Xiaohua had exposed him, Ao Qian simply nodded and said, "Master Xiao is right. The 3 mainlands originally belonged to the demonic beast race, Confucian cultivators, and Buddhist sects. Master Xiao's Fortune Gate is a Tao sect, and it is not suitable to be placed in any of the 3 mainlands. With this suspicion, it will be difficult to work together to deal with the world-destroying strange insect, and it will be impossible to work together. Rather than this, Master Xiao and the Fortune Gate might as well look elsewhere." "I'm afraid it's the West Sea?" Xiaohua's eyes narrowed as he asked thoughtfully. "That's right." The East Sea Dragon Palace's Lord Ao Qian looked at Aoe and shut his mouth. The Dragon Island's second elder Aoe nodded and said, "Master Xiao has also been to the Dragon Island and participated in the Dragon Island's training. Naturally, you know how vast the 4 seas are, and how many times bigger than the 3 mainlands. Moreover, the 3 mainlands' population is prosperous, and there are many cultivators and demonic beasts. It should be easy to deal with the world-destroying strange insect. One more Fortune Gate won't make a difference. Although there are many Sea Clan and Dragon Clan in the 4 seas, the reproduction of the Sea Clan and Dragon Clan is far less than that of the Human Clan. Their numbers are also much smaller. Therefore, the Dragon Palace of the 4 seas is already struggling to defend the 4 seas. Even if the Dragon Island only sends out the necessary Dragon Clan to guard the 4 seas, it is still far from enough. Moreover, the West Sea Dragon Palace has suffered a great defeat, and Ao Hong's whereabouts are unknown. The entire West Sea is now empty, so the Dragon Island wants to borrow my Fortune Gate's strength to guard the West Sea." Xiaohua smiled as he began to make small calculations in his heart. Xiaohua was no exception. He had just mocked Ao Hong, and now he was making plans for himself. Aoe did not deny. He nodded and said, Dragon Teacher Xiao is my dragon tribe's dragon teacher. The Fortune Gate also has enlightened Master Yun. Both of you are respected by my dragon tribe. The two of you are guarding the West Sea, and no dragon tribe dares to say no. That's right. Enlightened Master Yun split the South Sea Dragon Palace. Which dragon tribe member can withstand Panga's axe? Xiao Hua sneered inwardly. Ao Qian continued, moreover, the Paradise River of the Three Rivers is very powerful now. Under Jiang Hong's leadership, they have already invaded the West Sea. Jiang Hong is a Fortune Gate disciple. If Dragon Teacher Xiao doesn't go, who can? There's also Ao Zhan. Aoe did not forget to point out, he has also caused great waves in the East Sea and West Sea. Now is the time when we need people. It is not good for our dragon tribe to have internal strife. He admires Dragon Teacher Xiao the most. If you don't go, who can suppress him? Xiao Hua smiled in his heart, but the worry on his face deepened. He said reluctantly, Second Elder, you are telling the truth. I also want to agree. But, my Fortune Gate disciples are all humans. Jiang Hong and the other dragon tribe members are only a small part. I can go to the West Sea with enlightened Master Yun, but how can I let the Fortune Gate disciples go? Moreover, my Fortune Gate has a good foundation in the soaring Dragon Mountain range. How can I just give it up? It's not appropriate, not appropriate. This old man does not intend to let Dragon Teacher Xiao give up the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Aoe replied cunningly, once Dragon Teacher Xiao defeats the world-destroying strange insect, he can naturally lead the Fortune Gate disciples back to the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Immortal Emperor Gaochen coughed twice. He did not care about his dignity as an immortal emperor and said, Second Elder, what you said is wrong. How could Xiao Lei return empty-handed when he went to the West Sea? How can a small soaring Dragon Mountain range accommodate the Fortune Gate's ferocious army? Immortal Emperor Gaochen's current mood was no different from the Grand Mist Ancestor outside the Soaring Cloud Faction Hall. One was shameless and wanted to enter the Soaring Cloud Faction Hall by any means possible. If he lost this opportunity, he would not have the chance to stand on the stage of the three continents. The other was shameless and wanted to invite the Fortune Gate disciples away from the Soaring Dragon Mountain range by any means possible. If he lost this opportunity, he would not have the chance to invite Xiao Hua to leave. Old man Gaochen. Aoe did not care about Immortal Emperor Gaochen's attitude. He smiled and said, It's not that my Dragon Island doesn't agree. It's just that Dragon Teacher Xiao doesn't care about my West Sea. He is a human, and he still prefers to stay on the continent. That Immortal Emperor Gaochen smiled and said, Dragon Teacher Xiao, there are many immortal mountains in the depths of the West Sea. They are much stronger than the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Dragon Teacher Xiao, you can look around casually when you are fighting the strange insect. You will definitely find a suitable place. Look around casually? Your Majesty is too relaxed. Xiao Hua smiled and said, Even the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas could not find the immortal mountains. How can I find them? That's because they don't want to. Immortal Emperor Gaochen persuaded, they are used to the sea and never care about immortal mountains. Naturally, they won't be able to find them. If Dragon Teacher Xiao goes to look for them, you will definitely find them. Maybe I can find them. Xiao Hua smiled and said, but this Xiao's Fortune Gate has spent so much effort on the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Oh, this Xiao also has the newly established Xiao country. If the Fortune Gate goes, wouldn't the Xiao country be divided? Immortal Emperor Gaochen was angry and found it funny as he replied, If Dragon Teacher Xiao cares about the people of the Xiao country, you shouldn't be bargaining. If you don't go to the West Sea to guard it, when the strange insect comes, none of the people of the Xiao country will be able to survive. Damn it, old man Gaochen, didn't you say your conditions before? The golden-winged Great Pern couldn't hold back and scolded, No matter what, Dragon Teacher Xiao is your son-in-law. Can't you be a bit more generous? Rock Sage, it's easy for you to say that. Immortal Emperor Gaochen retorted without any trace of politeness, I have bestowed Princess Xia a lot. This is rare among the princesses of my immortal palaces. Moreover, I also have a decree for buying Fujiwen's wife. It's just a few words of nonsense. What's the use of a few titles? The golden-winged Great Peng sneered. It's better to give some real stuff. Alright. Immortal Emperor Gaochen said helplessly, Dragon Teacher Xiao, tell me, if your fortune gate leaves the soaring Dragon Mountain range, what price will this emperor have to pay? Why do you have to make this Xiao leave? Xiao Hua didn't understand, and said, the fortune gate is in the soaring Dragon Mountain range, and Princess Zixia is also in the fortune gate. If she wants to go back to her family, wouldn't it be convenient? Dragon Teacher Xiao. Dongfang Qianghao, who had been silent all this time, laughed and said, we don't need to play dumb here. We might as well speak the truth. You are a Taoist cultivator, and the hidden immortal continent is the 9 prefectures unified by us Confucian cultivators. Your fortune gate is in the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Isn't this a thorn in the flesh of us Confucian cultivators? The struggle between Confucian and Taoist has been going on for many years. It's not something that can be changed in a short period of time. Rather than both of us being embarrassed and inconvenient for each other to develop, why don't we each take a step back? We Confucian cultivators will allow your Taoist sect to develop in the West Sea, and your Taoist sect will withdraw from the hidden immortal continent. What do you think? Xiao Hua nodded slightly. From the Seven Suns Temple's blood steel, he also saw the abnormal development of the Taoist sect's cultivators. The Taoist sect's cultivators had already affected his reputation. Moreover, the 3 mainland suppression of Confucian cultivators to allow Confucian cultivators to develop overseas was indeed a concession. No, it should be said that it was a huge concession. Instantly, Xiao Hua thought of the Penglai immortal realm. Xiao Hua's mind turned a few times. He wanted to ask Immortal Emperor Gaochen to release the Taoist cultivators in the Penglai immortal realm. However, after thinking for a while, he gave up. Not to mention that the Penglai immortal realm was related to the effects of the supreme heavenly mirror, Immortal Emperor Gaochen was unlikely to relent. Moreover, most of the Taoist cultivators in the Penglai immortal realm were probably like Taoist Master Rider Crane. They had an impression of the Grand Mist Ancestor and might not care about him. Why should Xiao Hua be so generous? Dragon Teacher Xiao, you agree? Dongfang Qianghao was overjoyed when he saw Xiao Hua nod. He wanted to send Xiao Hua away even more than Immortal Emperor Gaochen. With him, the balance between the Immortal Palace and the 4 great families was broken. Dongfang Qianghao and the 4 great families were not willing to see such a situation, especially the Nangong family. It's the same in principle. Xiao Hua nodded. Then, without any surprise, he changed his tone and said, however, I still have 3 conditions. 3 conditions? Dongfang Qianghao was secretly delighted. He stole a glance at Immortal Emperor Gaochen. Immortal Emperor Gaochen smiled and said, Dragon Teacher Xiao, please speak. In front of the Thunder Temple and Great Sage Hall, we will be frank and honest. First, Xiao Hua rubbed his chin and said with a smile, at this point, Your Majesty still doesn't want to take out the true great array of the 9 states and the secret technique of the 9 cauldrons united? This. Immortal Emperor Gaochen was clearly embarrassed. He hesitated and said, since that person isn't here, why does Dragon Teacher Xiao need the formation technique? And the secret technique of the 9 cauldrons united? I don't need it. Xiao Hua said, however, I don't like to be called scheming by others. Therefore I want it. Sigh, alright. Immortal Emperor Gaochen looked at Xiao Hua's shameless words and sighed, I have lifted a rock and smashed my own foot. As he spoke, Immortal Emperor Gaochen raised his hand and clapped. Below him, the illusion of a golden throne appeared. Once this illusion appeared, it immediately sealed the surrounding space. Even Dongfang Qianghao, who was far away, was pushed to the point that colorful clouds appeared around him. Immortal Emperor Gaochen raised his hand and pointed at the 9 cauldrons on the golden throne. The 9 cauldrons turned into a fist-sized object. This object was formed by the 9 cauldrons and each of them flashed with a golden light. Dragon Teacher Xiao. Immortal Emperor Gaochen waved his hand and that object landed in front of Xiao Hua. He said, "This object cannot leave the Ling Yun side hall. Otherwise, with my strength, I will not be able to see what is inside. You can comprehend it in the Jade Lake meeting. Before you leave, you must return it to me." Xiao Hua received it with a smile and carefully put it away. Earlier, Maitreya Buddha used his mind to tell Xiao Hua that the merit law given to him by Immortal Emperor Go Chen was a fake and couldn't be completed. Thinking about Immortal Emperor Go Chen's probing, Xiao Hua knew that this merit law was only a pretense. Therefore, he asked for the real 9 cauldrons heart technique. What is the second condition? Dongfang Qianghao was very happy to see Immortal Emperor Gaochen being defeated. The second condition. Xiao Hua looked at Dongfang Qianghao. Dongfang Qianghao's heart tightened. He was afraid that Xiao Hua would ask for too much. The second condition is that I want the Xian Yuan sword from the Immortal Palace. Ah? Xian Yuan sword? Not only was Dongfang Qianghao surprised, Immortal Emperor Gaochen was also shocked. He exclaimed, "Dragon Teacher Xiao, what do you want the Xian Yuan sword for?" "Nothing." Xiao Hua shrugged and said, "I heard that the Xian Yuan sword is a Taoist treasure. Now that it has fallen into the Immortal Palace, I want to take it back." "Who told you that the Xian Yuan sword is a Taoist treasure?" Immortal Emperor Gaochen was flustered and exasperated. "The Xian Yuan sword is a genuine immortal imperial equipment of my Confucian cultivation. It has nothing to do with your Taoist sect." Hearing Immortal Emperor Gaochen say, "half a copper coin," Xiao Hua secretly laughed. However, he still insisted, "Whether it is a Taoist treasure or not, I want it." "Then there is no other way." Immortal Emperor Gaochen shrugged like Xiao Hua and said, "It is not up to me to decide who the Xian Yuan sword belongs to. That is the token of the Immortal Palace's protector branch. If you want it, you can go find the master of the Supreme Pure Palace." Immortal Palace's protector? Xiao Hua was a bit confused. That day, the master of the Supreme Pure Palace easily gave the Xian Yuan sword to Wen Chu. He already had some doubts in his heart. Dongfang Qianghao explained, "Immortal Palace's protector is the protector of the Immortal Palace. That Xian Yuan sword. It is also something that can resist the Immortal Emperor's Son of Heaven sword. If the Immortal Palace's protector discovers that the Immortal Emperor is committing crimes and harming the interests of the Immortal Palace, the Xian Yuan sword will be unsheathed. This Immortal Palace's protector branch is completely loyal to the Immortal Palace, to the Confucian cultivators, and not to a certain family." Immortal Emperor Gaochen said indifferently, "Even if my beloved Dongfang can enter the Immortal Palace and sit on my golden throne, the master of the Supreme Pure Palace will still unsheath the Xian Yuan sword if he discovers that you have any ill intentions." "So that's how it is." Xiao Hua finally understood the difficulties of the master of the Supreme Pure Palace back then. Facing the person who loves him, facing his mission, he must make a choice. As a man, his choice is not wrong, but as a woman, his choice is very cruel. Suddenly, Xiao Hua had a feeling that he had fallen into a trap. He almost jumped up. "I have no reason to encourage Wen Chu to ask for the Xian Yuan sword. Isn't this a trap for myself? Perhaps, the master of the Supreme Pure Palace wants to exchange something for the tenderness like water sword. And already has this plan? Damn it." Xiao Hua gritted his teeth and cursed in his heart. Everyone in this world is not easy to deal with. There is no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Then, Xiao Hua said fiercely, "Since your majesty cannot agree to this Xiao's second condition, then this Xiao has no choice but to change my second condition." Immortal Emperor Gaochen said unhappily, "It's not that I don't agree, but I cannot agree to your condition." "Alright." Xiao Hua nodded. "Then this Xiao's second condition will also be simple." This old man is all ears. Dongfang Qianghao smiled and nodded. Xiao Hua said, "The Xiao country of the Gun Prefecture is this Xiao's Xiao country, and also the Xiao country of its people. This Xiao promises that it will also be the only country of my fortune gate on the hidden immortal continent. Moreover, the Xiao country's territory will not increase by an inch from today onwards. However, Your Majesty, Please issue a decree that the surrounding countries of Confucian cultivators should not have any ideas about the Shao country. Otherwise, my fortune gate will not agree. AI, Thunder Master Shao, your fortune gate has already left the soaring dragon mountain range. Why do you still have to leave behind some tails? Immortal Emperor Gaochen sighed, what's the point of doing this? The ones my fortune gate left behind in the Shao country should be the disciples from the soaring dragon mountain range. They will be led by Xiong Yi and the others, and will not affect your majesty's rule. Of course, if there are no more Taoist countries in the 3 continents, then the Shao country will naturally have no value. Xiaohua thought for a moment and took half a step back. Amitabha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha chanted, I feel that Banti Guan Yin's condition is suitable. After all, the people of the Shao country live in peace and contentment. If they were to fall into a Confucian cultivator country, their happiness would disappear. Why not let the Shao country continue to exist? Immortal Emperor Gaochen gritted his teeth in pain. The number of Buddhist temples was increasing, and he did not care about the Shao country. He nodded and said, since that is the case, I will do the same. What is Thunder Master Zhao's 3rd condition? The 3rd condition is very easy for your majesty. Xiaohua took out a jade eye and respectfully handed it to Immortal Emperor Gaochen. Your majesty only needs to send the item in the jade eye to the soaring dragon mountain range. Seeing Xiaohua's kind smile, Immortal Emperor Gaochen had a bad feeling. After he took the jade eye and looked at it, his expression changed slightly. In just a moment, Immortal Emperor Gaochen regained his calm. He nodded and said, this compensation is fair. After all, the soaring dragon mountain range is the foundation of the fortune gate for hundreds of years. Minister Dongfeng, I will leave this matter to the 4 great families and the 100 schools of thought. Dongfeng Qianghao was caught off guard, but he was also helpless. This matter was not only related to the Immortal Palace, but also the 4 great families. Since Immortal Emperor Gaochen gave the order, it was an emperor's decree. The 4 great families and the 100 schools of thought could not disobey. Of course, Dongfeng Qianghao's face turned green after reading the jade eyes. He glanced at Xiaohua and said in a low voice, this old man understands. This old man will send a message and send what Taoist Master Shao wants to the soaring dragon mountain range. After Dongfeng Qianghao sent the jade eyes out of the Lingyun side hall, Xiaohua looked at Aoe again. Aoe immediately understood when he saw that Xiaohua had looked at him. He smiled and said, Master Shao, you've already plundered half of the treasures in the West Ocean Dragon Palace's treasury. Xiaohua chuckled and said, this Shao does not dare to ask for anything. This Shao is just thinking, if our fortune gate manages to resist the world-destroying strange insects in the West Sea and fails to find the overseas immortal mountains, then we would have to give up on the soaring dragon mountain range. Wouldn't our fortune gate become a wanderer who can't return home? No, of course not. The golden-winged great pring immediately understood what Xiaohua wanted to say, and hurriedly shouted, we can't let the fortune gate's disciples bleed and cry, we must appease them. Your grandmother. Ao Qian cursed inwardly, we haven't even seen the world-destroying strange insect. Why are the fortune gate's disciples bleeding and crying? Each and every one of them is sinister. Aoe glanced at Ao Qian and asked Xiaohua in a low voice, Dragon Master Shao, could it be that you want to? Aoe looked at Ao Qian again as he said that. Impossible. 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 Ao Qian's dragon body expanded in an instant, and the silvery white flames around him soared to the sky. If a Fortune Gate's disciple sits on the West Sea Dragon Palace's dragon throne, my great holy hall will not let this matter go. That's not right, it should be this time. This holy sage will not interfere in the future. The Lord of the East Sea's dragon body shrunk and nodded. If that's the case, after repelling the strange insects, my Dragon Palace of the Four Seas is willing to hand over the West Sea Dragon Palace's treasury to the Fortune Gate as a token of gratitude. However, this matter will need to be discussed in detail in the future. Excellent, excellent. Maitreya Buddha, who had been silent all this time, joined his palms together and said, "Since that's the case, let us discuss some other difficult matters." Namo Maitreya Buddha. Please wait a moment. Xiaohua smiled and joined his palms together. Since the Fortune Gates matter has come to an end, then shouldn't we let the sky-bearing palace bear some responsibility? Immortal Emperor Gaochen nodded and said, "That's right, Dragon Teacher Zhao's words are in line with this emperor's thoughts. We, the Confucian cultivators, have already promised the Tao Gate that we can develop outside the West Sea. Naturally, the Tao Gate should bear some responsibility. Since the sky-bearing palace belongs to the Tao Gate, then it should be like the Fortune Gate and go to the West Sea to resist the strange insects. Inform Ancestor Grand Mist." Outside the soaring cloudside palace, the Grand Mist Ancestor, Taoist Rider Crane, and Anyazi stood with their hands behind their backs. Although they were whispering to each other, their gazes were constantly on the soaring cloudside palace's door. However, the three of them had different expressions. Taoist Rider Crane and Anyazi were obviously anxious, and in just a short moment, they had already glanced at the door several times. On the other hand, the Grand Mist Ancestor was indeed an ambitious and ruthless character. Although he occasionally glanced at the door, most of the time he was calm and indifferent. In the end, Taoist Rider Crane couldn't take it anymore. He looked at the ferocious immortal generals in front of the soaring cloudside palace and whispered, "Sect Master, how long has it been? Are we still waiting here? No matter what, we are still high-level cultivators of the Tao Gate. Are we going to stand here like beggars? It feels like we are waiting for the immortal palace to give us leftovers." The taciturn Anyazi also chimed in, "Sect Master, our sky-bearing palace doesn't rely on the Fortune Gate. Isn't our development in the hidden immortal continent very good? Why do we have to stick our warm faces to their cold buttocks? We are being looked down on for no reason." Grand Mist Ancestor snorted coldly and glanced at the two of them. He understood that most cultivators were obsessed with cultivation and didn't understand the art of politics. Anyazi and Taoist Rider Crane were considered famous figures in the sky-bearing palace, but they couldn't see the current situation clearly. The Grand Mist Ancestor explained the current situation in a low voice. His analysis was exactly the same as what Immortal Emperor Gaochen had said. In the end, he said, "If we can't enter the soaring cloudside palace and participate in the Jade Lake gathering, our sky-bearing palace will lose our best chance. Of course, it's not like we don't have a chance in the future, but in the future, Xiaohua's Fortune Gate will definitely attack our sky-bearing palace. We can't fight for such good conditions anymore. What if?" Anyazi hesitated and probed. "The Fortune Gate, Buddhist sect, Thunder Sound Temple, and Great Sage Hall reach an agreement and join forces to destroy our sky-bearing palace?" The Grand Mist Ancestor laughed arrogantly. "So, this old man is betting that Xiaohua won't do that." Taoist Rider Crane's expression changed slightly. He looked at Anyazi and the two of them had fear in their eyes. Xiaohua has always prided himself on being benevolent and magnanimous. If this old man deliberately avoided him, it would be as he wished. However, this old man took the risk and delivered himself to his door. This old man wants to see. The Grand Mist Ancestor laughed and said indifferently, "What will the famous Taoist Xiao do?" "Sect Master, how confident are you?" Taoist Rider Crane asked in a low voice. "Not even half." The Grand Mist Ancestor chuckled and said, "Because if it was this old man would definitely kill him." "It can't be." Taoist Rider Crane saw that the Grand Mist Ancestor's words were completely different from what he had said before coming to the soaring cloudside palace. His face turned pale and he whispered, "If the sect master isn't confident he's going to walk into the trap?" The Grand Mist Ancestor laughed when he saw how nervous Taoist Rider Crane and Anyazi were. He clapped his hands and said, "The two of you are really funny. If this old man wasn't confident, why would I come here? Previously, we didn't have a chance. This old man endured humiliation and hid from the immortal palace's pursuit. Now that this old man dares to come here, how can I not have a chance? Don't worry. Xiaohua claims to be the leader of the Taoist Gate. Since he dares to erect a blood stele in the Seven Suns Shrine, he definitely won't let the Immortal Palace make a move on the Sky-bearing Palace. Moreover, if he wanted to make a move, why would he wait until now? He has plenty of chances in the Longevity Town. Yes, this subordinate understands. Taoist Rider Crane and Anya Z nodded their heads. However, they still felt that the Grand Mist Ancestor's idea was too crazy. Also, the Grand Mist Ancestor lost his composure and revealed some of his thoughts. He didn't think that it would affect his subordinate so much. He smiled regretfully and said, "The two of you aren't at the Taoist Gate's Mahayana realm. Even if the Immortal Palace wants to." Just as the Grand Mist Ancestor was speaking, a thunderous voice rang out from the soaring cloud-side palace. "Summon the Grand Mist Ancestor." The Grand Mist Ancestor stopped and laughed loudly. "What do you think of this old man?" "Congratulations, Sect Master." Reverend Rider Crane and Anya Zizi replied respectfully with smiles on their faces. "Let's go. Follow this old man to the soaring cloud-side palace." The Grand Mist Ancestor seemed to be elated as he waved his hand. "Sect Masters, please." Taoist Rider Crane and Anya Z bowed and invited the Grand Mist Ancestor to go first. Unfortunately, the Grand Mist Ancestor only flew for a short while before he was blocked by the Immortal General of the soaring cloud-side palace. The Grand Mist Ancestor frowned and said, "This old man is the Grand Mist Ancestor. The Immortal Emperor has issued a decree. Why aren't you moving out of the way?" The Immortal General looked at the Grand Mist Ancestor with disdain and said indifferently, "This general is here to guard the door. Without the Immortal Emperor's decree, no one is allowed to pass." Damn it. The Grand Mist Ancestor immediately understood the meaning of those words. He raised his head and looked at the side of the door. Indeed, there was another Immortal General guarding the side door. Thinking back to Xiao Hua's glory when he entered the soaring cloud-side palace and his current predicament, the Grand Mist Ancestor gritted his teeth. However, he took a deep breath and regained his composure. His figure flashed as he brought Taoist Rider Crane and Anya Z to the side door. "This old man is the Grand Mist Ancestor. I am here to see the Immortal Emperor." The Grand Mist Ancestor spoke politely, and the Immortal General guarding the door didn't make things difficult for him. He looked at the Grand Mist Ancestor from head to toe and moved to the side. However, just as the Grand Mist Ancestor passed through, the Immortal General raised his weapon and blocked Taoist Rider Crane and Anya Z. The Grand Mist Ancestor was displeased and said, This old man's follower." Unfortunately, the Immortal General's face was as cold as stone. He didn't even look at the Grand Mist Ancestor and only raised his weapon to block them outside the side door. "You wait here." The Grand Mist Ancestor was very decisive. After thinking for a while, he stepped into the side door of the soaring cloud-side palace. Taoist Master Rider Crane and Anya looked at each other in dismay. Both of them looked at each other and rejoiced. Their bodies fluttered, and they flew out of the side door for a short distance. Then, they clasped their hands together and stood still in the air. Also, I thank everyone for supporting Divinity Cultivation. If everyone can enjoy this chapter, it will be the greatest gratification for the third place. At the same time, I will take this opportunity to call for more readers to subscribe to the original version of this book. The third place doesn't ask for everyone to subscribe to the previous chapters. I only hope that everyone can start from the last chapter. The story of the immortal world and the desolate era is in everyone's hands. The third place tearfully asks for subscriptions. If the number of subscriptions exceeds 1,000, the immortal world will be opened. If the number of subscriptions exceeds 1,000, the immortal world will be opened. If the number of subscriptions exceeds 100, the immortal world will be opened. If the number of subscriptions exceeds 1,000, the immortal world will be opened. How Xiaohua went against the light to become a sage completely depends on everyone. The third place thanks. Chapter 4672. At this moment, near the huge Lingyun side palace, millions of Aoranchi pillars were still roaring in the stalactite palace. Countless clouds condensed and flashed with a dazzling brilliance. This brilliance was like the sun and the moon, illuminating the entire space. However, where there was light, there was also darkness. The darkness was like the wrinkles of time, occasionally appearing where there was light. Within the wrinkles, there would occasionally be many black spots. These black spots were either hidden in the void or in the darkness. They didn't emit any magic power fluctuations. They were really like black spots that couldn't be easily discovered. However, where the black spot was, the light was swallowed up by the wind of time. Strands of light that seemed to be hollowed out were produced in an uncanny manner. They were like flowers blooming in the multicolored light screen. When the layers of black spots gradually became denser, within the Aoran Chi pillars, a fist-sized black shadow appeared. This shadow wasn't full, instead, it was like a thin image. However, this shadow gradually elongated and could be seen clearly. Wasn't this the world-destroying strange insect that Xiaohua mentioned? Half of this strange insect's size was its head. There were 2 long antennae on its head, which were swaying at will. As the antennae swayed, the flake-like shadow strangely folded and extended in the light. After a while, the strange insect seemed to have swallowed the light, and its entire body began to bulge. However, it only bulged a few inches. In the middle of the strange worm's body, layers of grayish patches had just appeared when the entire body of the strange worm collapsed. Soon after, the shattered pieces transformed into even smaller illusionary figures that hurriedly seeped into the multicolored light. The halberd-like hind legs of each illusionary figure flashed with a bright light that was different from the multicolored light. The supreme experts of the 3 continents gathered in the Lingyun Side Palace to discuss how to resist the strange insect from the outer realm. They thought that the strange insect from the outer realm invaded the 3 continents from the boundary of the world. They didn't expect that the strange insect from the outer realm had invaded the 3 continents through the veins of the void. Now, it had already spread throughout the void of the 3 continents. Immortal Palace, Thunderclap Temple, Dragon Island, and the Great Holy Temple wanted to set up a defense line between the 3 continents and the 4 seas, but now the 3 continents had become a defenseless slaughterhouse. Immortal Emperor Gochen was in charge of the Side Palace, but due to his carelessness, he didn't notice this anomaly. The Grand Mist Ancestor was even more unaware of this matter. At this time, he had already passed through the side door of the Side Palace and was greeted by the sight of 5 majestic mountains towering under the blue dome of heaven. A vigorous feeling immediately rose from the bottom of his heart as if his blood was boiling. The Grand Mist Ancestor opened his mouth and let out a long roar. His body suddenly expanded and turned into 2 black and white rays of light that shot towards the top of the thunderbolt where Xiaohua was. Xiaohua didn't say anything, but the lightning Taoist was a little displeased. He snorted coldly, and 100 zhang long lightning bolt appeared in front of the Grand Mist Ancestor with a loud boom. "Ha, a thunderbolt immortal, are you welcoming me?" The Grand Mist Ancestor laughed heartily and rubbed his hands together. Cut. More than 10 black and white rays of light appeared in the space around him and landed on the lightning bolt like stars surrounding the moon. It was very strange. Zzzt. A sound similar to cold water falling into a pot of hot oil rang out. The black and white rays of light actually penetrated the lightning bolt and turned into threads of light that completely entangled the lightning bolt. Amidst the crackling sound, the 100 zhang long lightning bolt collapsed and disappeared. However, the moment the lightning bolt disappeared, a scarlet-red lightning bolt pounced out like a spirit snake and slammed into the Grand Mist Ancestor's left shoulder with lightning speed. The golden light barrier around the Grand Mist Ancestor's body flickered and blocked the lightning. However, the Grand Mist Ancestor's body staggered as he came to a stop. The smug look on his face was replaced with shock, shame, and anger. Fellow Taoist Thunderbolt. The Grand Mist Ancestor stood there and lowered his head to look at the golden light on his left shoulder. What is the meaning of this? A brat who hasn't reached the peak of the Grand Ascension realm dares to stand shoulder to shoulder with me? The lightning Taoist didn't know any modesty and scolded without any trace of politeness. Xiaohua laughed and said, "Fellow Taoist Grand Mist, although the lightning Taoist's words aren't pleasant to hear, He has good intentions. Don't forget, today you and I are guests at the High Cloud Side Hall. If you want to sit down, I'm afraid you have to see Immortal Emperor Go-Chin first, right? If you come here directly, it will be rude and make the Confucian cultivators, Buddhist sect, and demon races experts laugh at you. Damn it. The Grand Mist Ancestor cursed in his heart. Of course, he knew that he had to see Immortal Emperor Go-Chin before entering the Lightning Mountain, but he didn't plan to sit down first. However, before he could get close, the Thunderbolt Immortal blocked his way. The Grand Mist Ancestor took a deep breath and cupped his hands towards the Lightning Taoist. I see, then this old man is wrong. This old man thanks fellow Taoist Thunderbolt for reminding me. The Grand Mist Ancestor then bowed towards the Scroll Mountain where Immortal Emperor Go-Chin and Dongfang Qiong were at. Grand Mist Ancestor greets the Immortal Emperor. Although the 5 mountains were quite far apart, the people and demons could see each other clearly under the sky. Immortal Emperor Go-Chin saw the Grand Mist Ancestor's respectful attitude and said with a smile, Grand Mist Ancestor, we haven't seen each other for a long time. The Grand Mist Ancestor was stunned and puzzled. He asked curiously, how? Didn't I just see your majesty at the Longevity Town? Immortal Emperor Go-Chin said meaningfully, the meeting at that time. Is it considered a meeting? The Grand Mist Ancestor didn't understand what Immortal Emperor Go-Chin meant. Immortal Emperor Go-Chin didn't dare to explain. He raised his hand and the jade eye that the Grand Mist Ancestor took out appeared in his palm. Immortal Emperor Go-Chin waved his hand disdainfully. The jade eye was carried by a cloud and slowly floated in front of the Grand Mist Ancestor. This emperor doesn't care to take out such an eyesore. Immortal Emperor Go-Chin smiled faintly and raised his hand again. Another 2 jade eyes with 3 colors appeared out of nowhere. 2 clouds streaked across the sky and the jade eyes were delivered to Xiao Hua and the Grand Mist Ancestor respectively. When the Grand Mist Ancestor received the jade eyes and scanned them with his divine sense, a look of shock appeared on his face. He hurriedly raised his head, but he didn't look at Immortal Emperor Go-Chin. Instead, he looked directly at Xiao Hua. At this time, Xiao Hua also raised his head with a meaningful smile on his face. His gaze collided with the Grand Mist Ancestors in midair. It was just like the collision outside the Star Moon Palace in the blink of an eye. Damn it! The Grand Mist Ancestor gritted his teeth. He seemed to have understood something from Xiao Hua's gaze and cursed inwardly. Black and white lights flashed in the Grand Mist Ancestor's palm and the jade eye instantly turned into nothingness. Not even a speck of dust was left behind. Xiao Hua chuckled as he carefully placed the jade eye pearl into his bosom, and he retracted his warning gaze from the Grand Mist Ancestor. Your Majesty, what is the meaning of this? The Grand Mist Ancestor raised his head and looked at Immortal Emperor Go-Chin. This emperor has many meanings. Do you want to hear them one by one? At this point, Immortal Emperor Go-Chin actually kept the Grand Mist Ancestor in suspense. The Grand Mist Ancestor nodded and replied, That's right. First, Immortal Emperor Go-Chin said, This emperor wants to tell you not to play tricks in front of this emperor. Since you want to tell this emperor what it means to throw a rook to save the king, then this emperor will also tell you what it means to throw a brick to attract jade. The Grand Mist Ancestor was about to vomit blood in his heart. He really regretted his action just now. Second, Immortal Emperor Go-Chin said slowly, This emperor wants to tell you that on this hidden immortal mainland, there is nothing that this emperor doesn't know. Don't think that you are doing things secretly and that this emperor knows everything that you do. The reason you can come here is not because this emperor saw your sincerity and let you in. It is because Taoist Shao of the Fortune Gate repeatedly let you in, saying that you are also a member of the Tao Gate, one of the cultivators of the 3 mainlands. Now that the 3 mainlands are facing the threat of destruction, you should be able to help. This emperor let you in. Since you are willing to announce your power to the public, then this emperor might as well help you and pull your relationship with the Fortune Gate closer. Yes, many thanks, Your Majesty. Your Majesty is still the most considerate. Although the Grand Mist Ancestor was gritting his teeth, he could only swallow them down. The Immortal Emperor Go-Chin continued, because before you entered the Lingyun side hall, this emperor's immortal palace, the dragon clan's Dragon Island, the demonic clan's Great Sage Hall, and the Buddhist sect's Thundersound Temple had already reached a consensus. Similarly, the Tao Gate will participate in the war against the alien insects as an independent force. Moreover, if we kill the alien insects, the Tao Gate will be able to establish a sect outside the Western Sea. Really? The Grand Mist Ancestor asked in disbelief. Happiness seemed to have come too suddenly, and the Grand Mist Ancestor couldn't take it anymore. Immortal Emperor Gochen said unhappily, "This emperor has a mouth of gold and jade, how can I lie to you? Since your Tao Gate can develop as you wish, there is no need for you to hide your forces. Why don't you just take them out and be as open as the Fortune Gate?" Yes, I understand. The Grand Mist Ancestor nodded repeatedly. However, Immortal Emperor Gochen's words were like a bucket of cold water that extinguished the Grand Mist Ancestor's fire. Immortal Emperor Gochen continued, "Fourth, Taoist Shao of the Fortune Gate is the leader of our Tao Gate. Since you want to establish a sect and establish the Sky-bearing Palace, how can you go against Taoist Shao?" This emperor gave the jade eyes to him to remove the knot in your heart so that you can work together better. Xiao Hua knew that this was Immortal Emperor Gochen's plan to drive a wedge between them, but he also benefited from it. He didn't say anything and just looked at the Grand Mist Ancestor. Today, the Grand Mist Ancestor was bullied miserably by Immortal Emperor Gochen. The corner of his mouth twitched a few times, and before he could erase the shadow in his heart from the leader of the Tao Gate, he smiled and said, "Yes, Your Majesty's good intentions, I appreciate it. Previously, I didn't know Your Majesty's decree, so I took out the jade eyes. Since Your Majesty has already given the decree, I don't need to hide anything from Taoist Shao." "That's good." Immortal Emperor Gochen smiled as if he was harmless to humans and animals. He continued, "Fifth. At this time, not to mention the Grand Mist Ancestor, even Xiao Hua and the others were stunned. They didn't expect Immortal Emperor Gochen to say so many reasons, so everyone unconsciously pricked up their ears. "Fifth, this emperor wants to tell you that not only is there nothing I don't know about in the hidden immortal continent, there is also nothing I can't do." Immortal Emperor Gochen's tone suddenly turned cold as he said, "In the past, this emperor was able to capture you, and today, this emperor will also capture you. Moreover, it's not that this emperor couldn't kill you that day. The reason why this emperor joined forces with the demon race and Buddhist sect to suppress you is not because your cultivation is too high and we can't kill you, but because Immortal. Immortal Emperor Gochen's words were like a stick, hitting the Grand Mist Ancestor silly. He looked at Immortal Emperor Gochen with a puzzled expression and asked curiously. At this time, the Grand Mist Ancestor's imposing manner when he entered the Ling Yun side palace had been dispelled by Immortal Emperor Gochen as if it was nothing. "Yes, Immortal." Immortal Emperor Gochen said coldly, "Previously, because there was an immortal, this emperor wouldn't easily make a move on you. Now that the immortal has left, if you have any evil intentions, don't blame this emperor for being impolite." If the previous words were like cold water splashing on the face, Immortal Emperor Gochen's words were like a thunderbolt. In an instant, the Grand Mist Ancestor fell from the sky into the abyss. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, the Grand Mist Ancestor went through his encounter with Su Ji, and all the various signs pointed to Su Ji. Was the immortal mentioned by Immortal Emperor Gochen? Why didn't I think of it? The Grand Mist Ancestor muttered in a low voice, and his face was ashen. Since he is an immortal, why can't he help our Tao sect? Why can't he? The Grand Mist Ancestor said, "Can't," a few times until finally he raised his head angrily, looked at Xiao Hua, and shouted, "Xiao Hua! Do you know about this?" The Grand Mist Ancestor's eyes were filled with anger, but Xiao Hua could clearly see the vicious resentment in that anger. Fairy Xing Yu had clearly described the Grand Mist Ancestor's character, so how could Xiao Hua not know that the Grand Mist Ancestor's anger was just an act? The viciousness behind that anger was his true intention. Why would I tell the truth to a person who has already lost his chance? Xiao Hua replied lazily, since this person has already given up on his promise and thinks that he can hold up the sky with one hand, why would others still help him? While speaking, Xiao Hua turned to look at immortal Emperor Go Chen again. Since Fairy Xing Yu understood the Grand Mist Ancestor's character, how could immortal Emperor Go Chen not understand? Immortal Emperor Go Chen had not mentioned the word immortal in front of the Eastern Sea Dragon King and Dongfang Qiong Hao, so why did he mention it when the Grand Mist Ancestor appeared? Obviously, immortal Emperor Go Chen wanted to tell the Grand Mist Ancestor that the immortal was with Xiao Hua before he left. It was very likely that the immortal had left many things for Xiao Hua, and these things could have originally belonged to the Grand Mist Ancestor. If it was someone else, they might not have been fooled. However, although the Grand Mist Ancestor was already a cultivator of the 9th level of origin energy, his character would not change. He would not judge others by his own standards. He could only be the kind of person who would rather betray the world than let the world betray him. Therefore, if the Grand Mist Ancestor hated Xiao Hua very much before, it was probably 100% now. Sure enough, the Grand Mist Ancestor closed his eyes slightly after hearing Xiao Hua's words. Then, he took a deep breath and bowed respectfully in one direction. Then, he bowed deeply to Xiao Hua and said, "Thank you, fellow Taoist Xiao, for accompanying him on his last journey." "You're welcome, you're welcome." Xiao Hua waved his sleeves and said indifferently, "This is what I should do." Finally, the Grand Mist Ancestor bowed again to immortal Emperor Go Chen and said, "I will also write your Majesty's words." No need to be so polite. Immortal Emperor Go Chen looked at the Grand Mist Ancestor's performance and laughed with satisfaction. "You and I are going to form an alliance to fight against the world-destroying strange insect. How can we not be honest? Lightning Sage, may I take a seat?" After losing his composure, the Grand Mist Ancestor regained his fierce and ruthless demeanor and asked the Lightning Sage calmly, "What does it have to do with whether you want to sit or not?" The Lightning Sage did not give the Grand Mist Ancestor any face. "Many thanks, fellow Taoists." The Grand Mist Ancestor smiled faintly and landed on the Lightning Mountain peak. Layers of black and white light emerged from his body and intertwined to form a cloud that resembled a praying mat. The Grand Mist Ancestor sat down cross-legged on the praying mat. Xiao Hua looked at the Grand Mist Ancestor's indifference and a trace of vigilance appeared in his heart. He said, "Now that the other branch of our Tao Gate has arrived at the Lingyun Side Hall, it's time to discuss how to fight against the world-destroying strange insect." Taoist Xiao. The Grand Mist Ancestor smiled and said, "When everyone was discussing, I wasn't around. How will our Tao Gate develop outside the Western Sea? How will we defend against the world-destroying strange insect outside the Western Sea?" Xiao Hua thought for a moment and summarized the previous discussion. In the end, he said, "As long as our Tao Gate can block the world-destroying strange insect outside the Western Sea and prevent it from harming the sea tribes and invading the inner sea, our Tao Gate will be able to develop freely outside the Western Sea." The Grand Mist Ancestor nodded slightly. Previously, this old man was afraid that the Immortal Palace would use our Tao Gate as a puppet. Now, it seems that they are quite sincere. With your sky-bearing palace's little strength, I wouldn't even bother to use it even if you were in front of me. The Immortal Emperor snorted in disdain. The Maitreya Buddha on the Buddha lotus said, "Namo Maitreya Buddha, since the Great Sage Hall, Dragon Island, Immortal Palace, Fortune Gate, Sky-bearing Palace, Thunder Temple, and my tiny exquisite temple have all come to an agreement, let's discuss the specific areas we will be defending." When the Maitreya Buddha finished speaking, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha spat out a Buddha lotus. The Buddha lotus flew into midair, and Buddha lights shone on it as it expanded, instantly transforming into a huge image of the Nirvana world. Then, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha raised his hand and pointed. Thousands of radiances were born from his finger and landed on the edges of the Nirvana world. The Maitreya Buddha world honored one did not hesitate. He also raised his hand. Swish! Countless flashes of Buddha dust appeared, and the magnificent scenes of the Buddhist countries appeared from within the flashes of Buddha dust. The flashes of Buddha dust were like dust. They drifted to the edge of a small part of the southern part of Nirvana and landed quietly. After the Buddha dust landed on the ground, the Buddha lights retracted, becoming indifferent. It was even gentler than the Dipankara archaic Buddha's Buddha lights. Sigh. The Dipankara archaic Buddha couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Shock appeared on his face, and he pressed his palms together. Namo Amitabha. Amitabha, Amitabha. Congratulations, junior apprentice brother, for comprehending Buddhism so deeply. Namo Maitreya Buddha. The Maitreya Buddha also chanted and said, everyone is a Buddha. Spirits are Buddhas. Objects are Buddhas. Congratulations, World Lord. The Namo Maitreya Samantabhadra's face was filled with joy, and he immediately bowed. The Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva hesitated for a moment before bowing and congratulating as well. This disciple congratulates World Lord. Since the two bodhisattvas had congratulated him, Xiaohua also stood up and congratulated the Maitreya Buddha with the identity of the Guan Yin Bodhisattva. Only he knew that the Maitreya Buddha must have obtained something from the golden Saraira. Congratulations, congratulations, the immortal emperor, the Dragon Island's second elder, and the others naturally added fuel to the fire and congratulated him one after another. In the end, the immortal emperor waved his emperor robe again. Whoosh! A majestic chi pillar rushed out and turned into the shape of a scroll, which fell to the east. The scroll fell, and countless inscriptions on it exploded like ants. Instantly, the outline of the hidden immortal continent appeared in the air. The Gauchian immortal emperor opened his mouth again, and a reddish-gold sword light flew out, piercing into the east of the hidden immortal continent. Rumble! The entire eastern edge of the hidden immortal continent trembled, and a layer of barrier rose from the ground. This barrier was like a city wall, protecting the entire continent. Seeing that the Immortal Palace and the Thunder Temple had finished setting up their defenses, the golden-winged great prong bird let out a clear cry. As it flapped its wings, numerous rays of moonlight transformed into the shape of stars and rushed out. These numerous stars intertwined with each other in midair. When they reached the side of the hidden immortal continent, with a loud boom, the numerous stars collided and shattered at the same time. They transformed into countless rays of starlight that connected together and formed the outline of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. The Pentaceratops didn't hesitate. It moved its body and opened its mouth. Pluff! It spewed out a draconic breath that turned into several smaller dragons that flew to the north of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm and surrounded it. The Pentaceratops proudly said, "My great sacred temple has sent more than 100 demon monarchs and grand demons to these places to set up defenses. If those strange insects want to break through, they will have to step over the corpses of these demon monarchs." Good. The second elder of Dragon Island, Aoe, clapped his hands and smiled. He also opened his mouth, and a draconic breath landed, turning into a green splash. The splash was like an upside-down waterfall. When it landed high in the sky, it turned into the 4 seas that surrounded the 3 continents. Although the 3 continents were huge, they seemed small in the 4 seas. Everyone. The Dragon King of the East Sea, Ao Qian, wasn't in a hurry to reveal the defenses of the Dragon Palace of the 4 seas. Instead, he glanced at Aoe and said loudly, "The 4 seas are much bigger than the 3 continents. Moreover, the borders of the realms seem to be limitless. Even if the Dragon Palace of the 4 seas exhausted all the Sea Clan and Dragon Clan, we wouldn't be able to protect the borders. Therefore, with the support of Dragon Island, the Dragon Palace of the 4 seas protected these places." As he spoke, Ao Qian raised his dragon claw and pointed at the East Sea, South Sea, and North Sea. Waves of light rippled out from all directions. Indeed, the waves weren't shorter than the ones set up by the Buddhists, demons, and Confucian cultivators. However, compared to the surface of the sea, it was much smaller. I've discussed with the Dragon Palace of the 3 seas. Instead of setting up defenses so far away and stretching the battle line so far, why don't we shrink it a little? Aoe raised his hand and pointed, causing those directions to shrink. Although it seemed to be stretched, the defenses of the various races of the 3 continents on both sides of the line of defense protruded to the front. Aoe said helplessly, however, if we shrink it, everyone's line of defense will be in front of the Dragon Palace of the 3 seas. If strange insects attack us, we'll be attacked from the back. Immortal Emperor Gochen pondered for a while and answered, why don't we retreat all the lines of defense, and let the humans and demons in front of the lines of defense move to the back of the lines of defense? Amitba. It's easy to set up defenses, but it's difficult to retreat. The Dipankara archaic Buddha's face became even more bitter. Let's take a look at the West Sea first. Immortal Emperor Gochen looked at Xiaohua and the primordial chaos ancestor and said, then, we'll discuss it again. Alright. Xiaohua nodded and asked Dao Qian, how's the West Sea Dragon Palace's defenses? How many oceanic races and dragons do they have? Dao Qian raised his hand and pointed, causing a similar wave to rise. However, this wave was pitifully short. Then, Dao Qian gave a simple explanation of the West Sea Dragon Palace's defenses. Xiaohua pinched his chin and stared in the direction of the West Sea. He seemed to be deep in thought, as if he was thinking about how to set up the defenses. He also seemed to be looking at another place through the West Sea. The primordial chaos ancestor looked at Xiaohua and smiled, while Dao Master Xiao is thinking, I'll throw out a brick to attract jade. With that said, the primordial chaos ancestor raised his hand above the cloud below him. A ray of light turned into a flying sword and shot into the West Sea. Splash. The sound of water splashing could be heard as a small defensive line connected to the West Sea Dragon Palace's side. Looking at the defensive line that was much smaller than the West Sea Dragon Palace's, the primordial chaos ancestor spoke humbly, but there was a hint of pride in his tone as he said, this old man's sky-bearing palace is lacking in manpower. I'm afraid this is all I can do. And it's already not bad. Immortal Emperor Gochen nodded and said, you didn't hide anything this time. This old man doesn't dare to hide anything in the face of a great enemy. The primordial chaos ancestor laughed and said, now, it's time to see the Fortune Gate's strength. Xiaohua still didn't make a move. He only frowned as he looked at the water surface. After half the time it takes to brew a cup of tea, Xiaohua raised his hand and pointed at the sky-bearing palace's side. Shua. Waves that were several times larger than the sky-bearing palace's size appeared. The primordial chaos ancestor's expression changed slightly when he heard Xiaohua say, the heavenly paradise river dragon tribe led by Jiang Hong is proficient in water. They don't have a lot of people, but they can cover a large area. We can let them set up their defenses here. Heavenly Paradise River Dragon Tribe? The primordial chaos ancestor's eyes turned rapidly as he looked at the waves in a daze. Then, Xiaohua pointed at the water surface again. The primordial chaos ancestor secretly let out a sigh of relief, but Xiaohua said, the dragon tribe led by Ao Zhan is more capable. They can set up their defenses here. Ao Zhan? Ao Zhan? The primordial chaos ancestor obviously didn't know who Ao Zhan was. However, when he saw Ao Qian nodding his head, he knew that Ao Zhan was also an unusual member of the dragon tribe. His expression turned even uglier. As for my Fortune Gate's disciples. Xiaohua raised his hand and waved it. A ray of light shot out like a bolt of lightning and landed on the surface of the sea. A huge wave rose like the rising tide, covering the entire West Sea's edge. Xiaohua said proudly as everyone looked at each other. They can set up their defenses here. The primordial chaos ancestor's face was ashen as the jealousy in his heart grew stronger. He could easily tell that the so-called Fortune Gate's disciples were not nurtured by Xiaohua alone. They must be Su Ji's painstaking efforts, and these disciples that could make the 3 mainland's forces tremble in fear should be his. Xiaolongshi. Aoe blurted out, Are you sure? Your Fortune Gate actually has such strength? Xiaohua shrugged and smiled. This Xiao also didn't want to expose our strength, but my fortune gate is different from everyone else. We don't have any foundation in the three mainlands, so we can go all out without any backup. These troops are all of my fortune gate's disciples. Moreover, if my fortune gate doesn't put in effort, how can the West Sea's immortal mountains belong to my fortune gate? And that's true. Immortal Emperor Go Chen nodded cautiously. What Xiao Lei said is true. If I didn't worry about the immortal palace, I would have sent out my troops to set up the defenses. It would have been the same. Your Majesty is joking. Xiao Hua looked at Dongfang Qiong Hao and then at Immortal Emperor Go Chen. He smiled and said, whether it is the immortal palace or the four great families, any one of them would have more disciples than my fortune gate. Forget it, let's not talk about this. Ao Qian waved his hand and said, previously, this old man didn't know that the fortune gate's disciples were so strong, so I limited the fortune gate's disciples to the West Sea. Now, it seems like Xiao Longsher, can you transfer Jiang Hong's Heavenly Cave River Dragon tribe to the South Sea to assist the South Sea Dragon Palace? Xiao Hua immediately understood Ao Qian's intention. He was worried that Jiang Hong would take the opportunity to take down the West Sea Dragon Palace. Unfortunately, how could Xiao Hua let him succeed? Xiao Hua smiled and said, Jiang Hong has been to the South Sea Dragon Palace before, and there is some conflict with the South Sea. If the Heavenly Cave River Dragon tribe were to set up defenses there, it would definitely cause a conflict. Why don't we send the other Fortune Gate's disciples to the South Sea? Xiao Hua waved his hand, and a ray of light flew into the South Sea, causing waves to surge. Ao Qian opened his mouth, wanting to transfer Jiang Hong to the North Sea. However, when he thought about Jiang Hong's grudge with the North Sea, he shut his mouth. He wanted to transfer Jiang Hong to the East Sea, but the East Sea was too far away from the West Sea. If he were to ask, it would be too harsh. Set up the defensive lines and withdraw. The Dipankara Archaic Buddha looked at them and said. Then, all the Exalt Realm cultivators waved their hands and withdrew their defensive lines. When all the defensive lines formed an irregular circle, they stopped. Yes. The Go-Chin Immortal Emperor nodded and said, let's do it this way. Let's hurry up and send a message to our people to retreat. Amitabha, Amitabha. The Dipankara Archaic Buddha glanced at the Maitreya Buddha and raised his hand, causing a ray of Buddha light to enter the void. At the same time, the Immortal Emperor and the Golden-Winged Great Roc sent a message to their disciples waiting outside the Lingyun Side Hall. Then, the Buddhists, Taoists, Confucians, and Dragons discussed the details in detail and exchanged a few opinions. Aoe looked at the defensive circle that had taken shape and frowned. Everyone, our races are now working together to resist the strange insects in the outer realm. We must cooperate and help each other. After all, the alien insects might not attack at the same time. We can concentrate our forces to kill the alien insects that appear at a certain location. However, our four seas dragon palaces have ancient teleportation formations that are connected to each other, while the three continents don't have any teleportation formations. It's fine for us to fly around, but those disciples are a little troublesome. We can only support them from nearby. If they're slightly further away, a huge flaw might appear. Our demon race's Great Sage Hall has a Sage Hall passageway that can be used only. The Golden-Winged Great Roc pondered and said, however, it's only limited to the 1,000 Demons' sacred realm. This won't affect the battle much. Without a teleportation formation, it's also troublesome to send messages. The Go-Chin Immortal Emperor frowned. Our Immortal Palace's Heavenly Secrets Hall has some tricks up its sleeve. However, it's only limited to the hidden Immortal Continent. If the three continents want to send messages or provide support, they can only do so through the Four Seas Dragon Palace's teleportation formations. Amitabha. The Dipankara Archaic Buddha echoed, our Thunderclap Temple has the same problem. Although those who attain the Bodhisattva Buddha fruit and above can borrow the Thunder Temple's Buddha light, there are only a few of them. Namo Maitreya. The Maitreya Buddha's world sovereign clasped his palms together and said, our exquisite temple has some guardian heavenly kings who know how to set up a teleportation formation. However, their teleportation formation collapses easily and can only be used temporarily. Moreover, the distance is limited. Although our Confucian cultivators' 10,000 miles sound transmission can't send us far, Dongfang Qianghao suggested, we can send more disciples to connect them. The problem of sending messages should be solved. While everyone and the demon race were discussing, Xiaohua was discussing with the Thunderbolt Master in his mind. After a while, Xiaohua had an idea in his mind and said, "Everyone, our Fortune Gate's disciples can set up short-distance teleportation formations on the 3 continents for disciples. Moreover, our Fortune Gate also has teleportation formations that connect the hidden immortal continent, the pure land of bliss, and the 1,000 demons' sacred realm." As soon as Xiaohua's words came out, the entire place fell into a dead silence. Even a drop of water could be heard clearly. "What? You don't believe me?" The corners of Xiaohua's mouth curled up into a faint smile. "Sigh, of course we believe you." Immortal Emperor Gochen sighed and said, "I've been waiting for you to say that." Xiaohua laughed and said, "So everyone has already thought of that person." That person Xiaohua was referring to was naturally Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu. Of course. Aoe smiled and said, "If it wasn't for the teleportation formation that connected the 3 continents, how could Zhai Xinglu send messages so quickly? Moreover, on this day of the Tao Gate's annihilation, if there's anyone who can set up a teleportation formation, it can only be that person." Xiaohua was secretly delighted and said with a smile, "Since everyone already understands, then I don't have to explain. To use the teleportation formation on the 3 continents, it costs 100 top-grade origin stones every time. Our Fortune Gate will help each continent build a teleportation formation, and the materials will be provided by you. Moreover, after it's completed, every time." "Master Xiaohua." Dongfang Qianghao smiled bitterly and said, "Master Xiaohua, have you fallen into a money grubber? The previous order was already too much and I didn't say anything. Now, we're building a teleportation formation for the sake of all living beings. Does Master Xiaohua not have any mercy in his heart? Aren't you the Namo Great Compassionate Great Guanyin Bodhisattva? All right, 1 top-grade origin stone every time. How about it?" Xiaohua replied with a smile, "We can't let our Fortune Gate disciples work for free, right?" "Of course not. This is a matter of merit and we can't ask for wages." The Dipankara Archaic Buddha also smiled. All the exalts present were happy because the construction of the teleportation formation had solved their biggest problem. However, the primordial chaos ancestor who was sitting cross-legged beside Xiaohua fell silent again. Needless to say, he resented Su Ji for giving these things that originally belonged to him to Xiaohua. Otherwise, he would be the one enjoying the benefits in the Lingyun side hall right now. After the discussion, Xiaohua was about to instruct the Thunderbolt Hermit to take the Kunlun Mirror and send the Fortune Gate disciples who were capable of setting up the teleportation formation on the Shenhua continent. However, just as he said that, Immortal Emperor Gaochen smiled and said, "Master Xiaohua, there's no need to rush. The Lingyun side hall isn't within the Immortal Palace's territory. The time is the same as the hidden Immortal Continent." All right. Xiaohua thought for a while and knew that the Fortune Gate disciples could prepare the materials needed to set up the teleportation formation on the Shenhua continent. He nodded and took out a few jade eyes and passed them to Immortal Emperor Gaochen, the golden-winged Great Rock, and the Dipankara Archaic Buddha. He said, "These are the materials needed to set up the teleportation formation. Please prepare the materials according to the distance and location of the teleportation formation. When my Fortune Gate disciples arrive, you can start setting up the formation." "Sure." The 3 exalts took the jade eyes and used their divine abilities to look at them. Then, they passed them to the disciples waiting outside the Lingyun side hall and hurriedly sent them out. At this point, the Taoist Gate's foundation in the 3 continents was barely established. When a sect wanted to integrate into the entire world, other than strength, it would be useful. Only when there was value in using each other would there be meaning in their existence. Although Xiaohua was powerful, and the Fortune Gate's army was a force to be reckoned with in the three continents, the Immortal Palace, Thunder Temple, Great Sacred Hall, and Dragon Island all had their own forces. However, building a teleportation formation wasn't something that other sects could do. Only the Fortune Gate could do it. It wasn't hard to imagine that the Taoist Gate could only stay in the West Sea for now. However, after the teleportation formation was completed and the Taoist Gate killed the world-destroying monstrous worm, the three continents would have to rely on the teleportation formation. Whether it was the monster race or the human race, they would all think of the Fortune Gate. Of course, there was also the possibility of the Taoist Gate's Grand Ascension stage experts like Xiaohua, so the possibility of that happening was greatly reduced. Seeing how Xiaohua and the Fortune Gate were so highly regarded, the Grand Mist Ancestor became even more jealous. However, he still forced a smile on his face and said, "Thank you, Taoist Xiao. With the teleportation formation, our Taoist Gate can establish itself in the three continents." "No, we should thank that senior." Xiaohua also smiled and said, although he didn't directly let the Taoist Gate take root in the three continents, he has already put in a lot of effort. This Xiao is merely standing on his shoulder. The Grand Mist Ancestor nodded in agreement. "Everyone." At this time, Immortal Emperor Gaochen raised his voice and said, "Today's discussion ends here. Everyone, take a look and see if there is anything missing. If there isn't, I invite the Empress to hold a banquet at the Jade Lake. We won't rest until we are drunk." Since the discussion had reached this point, there was naturally nothing left out. The venerables shook their heads. Immortal Emperor Gaochen smiled and said, "Everyone, please wait a moment. I invite the Empress to hold a banquet at the Jade Lake." Chapter 4673. As he spoke, Immortal Emperor Go Chen's imperial robe shook and a golden throne appeared below him. The moment the throne appeared, a powerful imperial aura gushed out from the top of the mountain. Dongfang Qianghao, who was standing next to Immortal Emperor Go Chen, was surprised. Immortal Emperor Go Chen glanced at Dongfang Qianghao and slapped the throne. A golden light turned into the shape of a dragon python and disappeared into the void. However, a moment later, there was a thunderous rumble and a giant golden bell appeared in the sky. The golden bell was covered in inscriptions, and strands of purple gas came out from the inscriptions. They were like tiny earthworms swimming in the golden light. Under the golden bell, there was a yellow light that fell into the void and covered the entire Lingyun Side Palace. "What a guy, the vast void bell." Aoe saw the bell and narrowed his eyes. He seemed to be mocking himself. "Old Gochen, you actually took the vast void bell from the Immortal Palace to the Lingyun Side Palace to set up a defense. Fortunately, I didn't have any bad intentions towards you. Otherwise, I'm afraid I wouldn't even be able to leave the Lingyun Side Palace. Don't have the heart to harm others, but don't let your guard down." Immortal Emperor Gochen replied with a smile. "I've been taken advantage of several times, so I have to learn from my mistakes." Dongfang Qianghao's face didn't even turn red. He bowed and said, "Your Majesty is a wise ruler. Perhaps some people were jealous of you before, but now that the world-destroying strange insect is besieged, Your Majesty's strategy is to focus on the foundation of the Confucian cultivators. Once we kill the world-destroying strange insect and return peace to the hidden immortal continent, who will not listen to Your Majesty?" Howell said. Immortal Emperor Gochen stood up and laughed. "We Confucian cultivators emphasize on political and martial arts. I have no objections to ruling the world through political means. However, if I don't use troops, the 100 schools of thought seem to have forgotten that the Sun Clan is a martial arts clan. This battle will let you all see my martial arts strategy." With that, Immortal Emperor Gochen waved his sleeve. 9 bell chimes resounded and a vast wave of golden light rushed towards the Lingyun Side Palace. The entire Lingyun Side Palace turned transparent in an instant. Even the mountain peak under Xiaohua and the others turned into debris. Koko. Behind Immortal Emperor Gochen, the sound of birds chirping could be heard. Xiaohua looked up and saw that the sky was giving birth to auspicious signs. Colorful immortal birds were descending from the sky. Behind them were several hundred immortal beasts. Xiaohua had never seen most of them before. Whoosh, whoosh. High up in the sky, the cloud jade necklace and immortal birds and immortal beasts rushed out. Below Xiaohua and the others, the crisscrossing ground changed again. Waves of blue ripples came out from the void and covered the entire ground. Immortal Emperor Gochen patted his golden throne and smiled. "Everyone, follow me to the jade pool." This Immortal Emperor Gochen's figure followed the golden throne and rushed into the cloud jade necklace. The blue ripples created waves as the sound of bells came out from the clouds. Several hundred female officials held various kinds of music and channeled their true energy to play. And in another direction, several thousand female generals also flew out from the clouds. These female generals all had weapons and danced to the music. Their graceful dance was not hidden by their armor. On the contrary, it exuded a mighty and murderous aura, making it even more pleasing to the eyes. Xiaohua and the others flew for a while. Whoosh! The vast void bell in the sky disappeared. Layers of jade necklace fluttered down like willow catkins. When they reached the top of everyone's head, they turned into specks of light. Within these specks of light, the entire space became transparent. Boom! 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 3 golden pillars of righteous energy appeared in the north, roaring as they pierced through the heavens and the earth. Outside the pillars of righteous energy, thousands of chains of inscriptions rushed out from below like dragons, surrounding the pillars of righteous energy. At the same time, the fragrance of the Confucian cultivator's destiny turned into a layer of fine peony flowers in the air. These peony flowers had different colors and their fragrances were competing with each other in terms of beauty. What was special was that there was an unyielding and proud aura coming from these peony flowers. Whoosh! The runic chains rushed to the end of the sky and turned into countless scrolls, writing brushes, scrolls, and even flowers falling down from the sky. In this magnificent scene of the mortal world, a golden peony and a pink peony bloomed amidst hundreds of flowers. At the spot where the pink peony bloomed, the shadow of another golden throne appeared. The Eastern Sea Empress was wearing a palace robe and sat on it with great majesty. The moment her figure appeared, Immortal Emperor Gochen's golden throne also swayed and turned into a golden light that fell into the other peony. The Celestial Emperor and Empress sat down. Clang! With a soft sound, the originally transparent space immediately lit up. Among the hundreds of flowers, Princess Zixia, Princess Qing Qing, Princess Miao Miao, and the others appeared. Even Taibai Jingxing, Heavenly King Qin Yu, Heavenly King Fu Yu, Heavenly King Sun Jian, and the other generals and ministers appeared. Roar! The light came out with a bestial roar. An auspicious beast similar to a qilin flew out from the void. This beast's body was transparent and countless runes condensed into words. Finally, they turned into scrolls that rotated inside the beast's body. Even the beast's 4 hooves were in the shape of writing brushes and inkstones. When the auspicious beast arrived at the spot where the flowers bloomed, it exploded again. Countless ingots, copper coins, and scrolls flew all over the sky. Namo Amitabha. Seeing that the Confucian cultivators had settled down, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Exalted chanted a Buddhist mantra and took a step forward to the west. Following the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Exalted's figure, the Maitreya Buddha World Exalted, the Manjushri Bodhisattva, and the Samantabhadra Bodhisattva followed closely behind. Clank, clank, clank. Countless sounds of knocking wooden fish resounded from the void in the west. Along with the sounds of Sanskrit chanting, layers of Buddhist lights fell from the sky like a heavenly river. Wherever the Buddhist lights fell, the silhouettes of countless kind men and women were revealed. Heavenly flowers flew out from their foreheads and circled around them. Similar to the Jeju flowers of the Yaodai Mountain, a Buddha statue sat on each of these flowers. Although each Buddha statue had a different appearance, and some of them were even blurry, these Buddha statues all had their palms pressed together as they bowed towards the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Exalted and the Maitreya Buddha World Exalted Dang. When the 2 revered sages' 9 lotus thrones appeared and sat on them, the 2 bodhisattvas also sat cross-legged on the lotus thrones. Another Buddhist bell rang, and Buddhist lotuses appeared where the heavenly flowers fell. Sitting or standing on the Buddhist lotuses were the disciples of the Buddhist sect. Almost at the same time as the Dipankara archaic Buddha world exalted took a step forward, the golden-winged great rock let out a clear cry and flapped its wings, flying towards the east. The profound armored Pentaceratops also revealed its draconic form and followed behind it. Although the two great sages' demonic bodies were several thousand feet in size, when they landed in the air, they only looked like ordinary demonic beasts. Just as the two great sages landed in the east, countless starry and moonlight pillars fell from the sky, enveloping the entire east. As the starry and moonlight pillars rumbled, clouds of starry dust rose like clouds. Within the starry dust, starry phenomena flickered. Then, dozens of starry phenomena collided with each other. The images of the demon race great sages who had participated in the Jade Pool gathering were displayed within the starry and moonlight pillars. Whoa! Under the starry and moonlight pillars, within the Jade Pool's jade-green ripples, a loud whimper resounded. Two stars broke through the sky and landed below the golden-winged great rock and the profound armored Pentaceratops. When the golden-winged great rock retracted its wings, the profound armored Pentaceratops coiled its body. Bam, bam, bam. Crisp noises resounded again. The demon race's demon kings flickered with starry brilliance, revealing themselves near the two great sages. Dragon Master Shao. The remaining AOE looked towards the south and smiled. Before the Jade Pool gathering, we had invited the Taoist Gate to take a seat. If you don't mind, why don't you sit together with my Dragon Island? No need. Xiao Hua smiled faintly. Since my Taoism has come to the Jade Pool gathering, how can we not have a seat? This is not how the Immortal Palace treats its guests. I believe that His Majesty Immortal Emperor will not favor one and discriminate against the other. Ha! AOE let out a long laugh, and his dragon body also spread out. The same loud noise resounded from beneath the Jade Pool's jade-green ripples. A huge water pillar soared into the sky. Countless water splashes swayed within the water pillar, and within the water splashes, there were tens of thousands of sparkling and translucent strands. If one looked carefully, each strand of translucent strands looked like a crystal dragon. Waves of dense dragon aura seeped out from the water pillar. Not only that, when the water pillar soared into the sky in the south collapsed as well. Countless essence chi of heaven and earth turned into crystal lights that were like children's arms and rushed down. Before they touched the water pillar, they exploded again. Bush. In the whistling of the wind, the phantoms of the five elements primordial beasts, azure dragon, white tiger, black tortoise, vermilion bird, and qilin, appeared majestically in the light and shadow. AOE let out a loud roar. His dragon body was supported by the water pillar. Behind him, the Lord of the East Sea, Ao Qian, also landed. Boom, boom, boom. Next, hundreds of water splashes gushed out from the surroundings of the water pillar. Many dragon generals also entered from outside the Lingyun side hall. Seeing the followers of the Exalts following them in, the primordial mist ancestor felt bitter. He knew that with Immortal Emperor Gaoqian's temper, he would definitely not allow the Riding Crane Taoist and the Dark Night Child to enter. Although Xiao Hua did not bring any disciples with him when he entered, all the Exalts knew that Xiao Hua had the Kunlun mirror in his hands. Within the Kunlun immortal realm, there were Xiao Hua's disciples. After Xiao Hua sat down, he could bring as many disciples as he wanted. What about the primordial mist ancestor? In the bustling Jade Pool gathering, he was the only one sitting alone in the sky-bearing palace. Even if he participated in the Jade Pool gathering, he would still be a laughingstock. The primordial mist ancestor could endure humiliation in front of Immortal Emperor Gaoqian, the golden-winged great rock, and the Dipankara archaic Buddha. However, he could not lose face in front of the four sects' disciples. In the future, if this matter was brought up, his sky-bearing palace's disciples would not be able to raise their heads. Therefore, the primordial mist ancestor made a prompt decision and hurriedly sent a sound transmission to Xiao Hua. Taoist Xiao. What's wrong? Xiao Hua, who had always been oblivious to humiliation, replied in bewilderment. Seeing that we are all Taoism cultivators, could you not let your Fortune Gates disciples out? Although the primordial mist ancestor's tone was pleading, his heart was already filled with resentment towards Xiao Hua. But Xiao Hua did not bring any Fortune Gates disciples with him. He did not think of letting a few unfamiliar Shenhua continent's disciples out. However, he still asked in confusion. However, he only asked a single question before he immediately understood. He rolled his eyes and said, "This Xiao understands now. However, when this Xiao brought my disciples here, I made it clear that I wanted them to experience the Kunlun immortal realm. I can't possibly extinguish my Fortune Gates disciples' desire just because of Taoist Zhao's words, right? This one will compensate the Fortune Gates disciples." When the primordial mist ancestors saw immortal Emperor Gochen looking in their direction, he hurriedly replied, "As long as Taoist Xiao agrees to this one's condition." Xiao Hua stroked his chin as he pondered inwardly. He really did not understand why the primordial mist ancestor valued face so much. However, he also did not understand what kind of extortion the primordial mist ancestor would accept. After a while, Xiao Hua sent a sound transmission to the primordial mist ancestor. "How about this? My Fortune Gate does not lack any origin stones, spiritual herbs, and other things. If you have any heavenly treasures, why don't you give them to this Xiao?" Heavenly treasures? The primordial mist ancestor almost fainted. He angrily said, "Taoist Xiao, this old man only has one request. Whether your disciples come to the Jade Lake gathering or not, what effect does it have on them? Why are you asking for so much from the start? A few heavenly treasures? Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue?" "All right, forget about a few." Xiao Hua smiled and said, "If you have wood, water, or water origin stones, why don't you take them out? This Xiao will agree to your request." The primordial mist ancestor's face flushed red. He turned his head and ignored Xiao Hua. He looked at the rippling waves of the Jade Lake, as if there were female officials coming out of their baths. All right. Xiao Hua saw that there was no hope, and he could only say, "This Xiao remembers that you have some lost refining techniques of my Tao Gate. Just take them out and let this Xiao see. This can be considered as spreading the glory of my Tao Gate's techniques." The primordial mist ancestor coldly snorted. He raised his hand and flicked out a jade eye from his sleeve, then lowered his head again. Xiao Hua beamed with joy as he received the jade eye. He casually sent it to the Fortune Gate on Shenhua continent. The current Shenhua continent was flourishing, and there were many cultivators. Who knew how many Tao Gates experts would be born with this jade eye? Immortal Emperor Gochen naturally didn't know that Xiao Hua had gained a small advantage. Seeing that the primordial mist ancestor was no longer speaking, he raised his voice and said, "Lightning Master Xiao, you are my immortal palace's lightning master. If you don't mind, you can also sit in my immortal palace." "Many thanks for your kindness, your majesty." Xiao Hua replied, "This Xiao is also the Guanyin Bodhisattva of the Buddhism sect. How about this Xiao go to the Buddhism sect? If Guanyin Bodhisattva comes, this seat will welcome you." The Dipankara archaic Buddha said with a smile. However, this smile contained a hint of bitterness. After all, the 99 feet golden body of the first Guanyin Bodhisattva of the Buddhism sect in the hidden immortal continent was actually a Taoism Mahayana. Right at this moment, the golden-winged great rock's voice resounded like thunder. He exclaimed, "Taoist Xiao, you are the Dragon Island's Dragon Master, the Immortal Palace's Lightning Master, and the Buddhism sect's Guanyin Bankara. But haven't you cultivated my demon race's martial arts? How about this? This sage will also give you the title of Demon Master. This way, you will be the master of the 4 sects, the lord of a sect." "TSK. Xiao Hua flicked his sleeves and said, Demon Master, why does it sound so awkward? This Xiao isn't of the demon race, and I don't understand the demon race's martial arts. Why should I talk about Demon Master? It's better not to mention it." Seeing Xiao Hua joking around with the other exalts, especially after hearing that Xiao Hua had so many identities, Princess Zixia, who was sitting among the peony flowers, was already mesmerized. Such a man, who stood at the peak of the 3 continents and came looking for her on 7-colored auspicious clouds, what regrets did she have in this life? During the Jade Pool banquet, Taoism also had a seat. However, it hasn't been used for many years. Today, I will open it for you. Looking at Xiao Hua's high-spirited appearance, the East Sea Empress was also full of joy. As she spoke, she raised her hand and took out a phoenix hairpin from her hair bun, then threw it into the jade pool. The phoenix hairpin turned into a stream of light and crashed into the jade pool like lightning. Boom! In the south of the jade pool, near the water pillar where the second elder of the dragon tribe was sitting, an earth-shattering sound rang out. The blue waves were torn apart, and a non-oval vortex appeared in the crack. The vortex became bigger and bigger, and finally condensed into a black hole that was thousands of feet wide. In this black hole, mysterious fluctuations spurted out like breathing. Immediately, the 5 elements primordial beasts, which were originally hovering near the dragon tribe, found the source of the fluctuations and flew over. Boom, boom, boom. Immediately after, a huge crack appeared in the void, and hundreds of spiritual chi of heaven and earth crashed into the black hole like a hurricane. Roar! An inexplicable beast roar came from the black hole, and then a wild aura, an unyielding will, and a rebellious spirit overflowed from the black hole. This. Xiao Hua sensed the aura and was quite puzzled. Moreover, this aura was extremely vast, and its spirit was also very similar to the heaven-defying spirit of the Tao Gate. He couldn't help but stare at the black hole in astonishment. Boom! After the aura passed, another pillar of 7-colored light gushed out. Within the light, one could see that a dark golden throne with an ancient design was revealed. But the moment this throne appeared, even the golden thrones below Immortal Emperor Go Chen and the Eastern Sea Empress began to vibrate. At the same time, the silhouette of a dragon throne appeared below Dragon King Ao Qian's body. Countless gazes fell on this throne. A domineering aura that could pierce the heavens emanated from the throne, enveloping an area of thousands of feet. The Grand Mist Throne! The Grand Mist Throne! The Grand Mist Ancestor couldn't help but exclaim. Our Tao Gate's Grand Mist Throne really did fall into the Immortal Palace. Xiao Hua glanced at the Grand Mist Ancestor from the corner of his eyes. Seeing the realization on his face, he finally understood where the Grand Mist Ancestor's Tao name came from. Fuck, this Grand Mist Ancestor really has lofty ambitions. He wanted to sit on the Grand Mist Throne since he was young. Xiao Hua cursed inwardly. But now, it's this Xiao who has the chance to sit on the throne. Not you. Where the Grand Mist Throne landed, the void collapsed. Countless amounts of heaven and earth origin energy rushed in, and countless illusions were destroyed. The 5 elements origin beasts flew around the throne in a frenzy. Master Xiao Lei. Immortal Emperor Gaochen was very satisfied with the shock caused by the throne's appearance. He smiled and said, "This Grand Mist Throne has been submerged under the Jade Lake for many years. Now that Master Xiao Lei is the leader of the Tao Gate, the Fortune Gate's great old master, you naturally have the qualifications to sit on it. Please." Your Majesty, you're wrong. How can this be called the Grand Mist Throne? It should be called the Fortune Throne. Xiao Hua laughed heartily. With a tap of his finger, a bolt of lightning descended. The entire throne instantly emitted dazzling lightning. Following the lightning, the throne slowly flew toward Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua stood in midair and scanned his surroundings. His gaze started from the Grand Mist Ancestor, then Ao Qian, the Methria Buddha World Exalted, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Exalted, and others. Finally, it landed on the Grand Mist Ancestor. Xiao Hua then looked towards the faraway Immortal Palace and said, "Your Majesty, this Xiao thanks you for this throne. However, if this Xiao were to sit on it alone, it would be quite lonely. Can I borrow Princess Zixia to sit with this Xiao?" Immortal Emperor Gaochen was very happy. He nodded and said, "This emperor loves to fulfill others' wishes. Although Princess Zixia has never married you, there is already an engagement. So what if she sits with you at the Jade Lake? If this matter were to spread to the hidden immortal realm, it would be a good story. Proof. Thank you, Your Majesty. Princess Xia's face was already flushed red. When she heard Xiaohua's words, her eyebrows relaxed. She stood up and bowed to express her thanks. Then she urged her red cloud to fly to Xiaohua's side. Xiaohua affectionately reached out his hand and held her cold and sweaty hand. Princess Xixia lowered her head slightly. She was extremely shy. Then, Xiaohua slightly used his strength and gestured to Princess Xixia. The two of them slowly sat down. As the two of them sat down on the throne of creation, countless bolts of lightning that were several times more tyrannical than the one Xiaohua had seen in the Creation Dao Palace rushed into the sky. They turned into a huge pillar of lightning that swam through the sky. This lightning force forced the Dragon Island's second elder, the Maitreya Buddha, and the others to retreat a distance. As the throne sat down, the heavenly being and the Thunderbolt Master urged their figures and stood on both sides of the throne. Boom boom. Two similar thrones formed by lightning appeared. The Grand Mist Ancestor's face was incomparably calm. He faintly smiled and his figure landed on the heavenly being's side. Xiaohua naturally wouldn't tease him. Lightning flashed as the Grand Mist Ancestor also sat on the throne. Empty. The Dao Gate seats were arranged. The entire Jade Lake was once again filled with the clear sound of a chime. Groups of women wearing seamless heavenly clothes appeared from the void. Although these women were beautiful and had graceful figures, they didn't seem to have a lively body. They only had faintly discernible lines. The heavenly women danced along with the sound of the chime. A kind of sadness and a kind of mystery involuntarily appeared in everyone's heart. However, at this time, Xiaohua didn't look at these heavenly women. Instead, he slightly tilted his head and looked at Princess Xixia. The princess also turned her head and looked at Xiaohua. The two of them were glued together like glue. Their fingers were tightly intertwined and their thumbs were stuck together. Dong. After a while, another chime sounded. The heavenly women finished their dance and disappeared into the void. Waves of blue waves rolled out as maids from the immortal palace flew out from the Jade Lake with fine wines and delicacies in their hands. At the same time, a golden table appeared in front of Xiaohua's group. After the banquet was served, before immortal Emperor Gaochen could raise his cup, the Eastern Sea Lord, Ao Qian, smiled and said, "Your Majesty is a bit stingy, ah. The most famous dish of the Jade Lake gathering is the immortal peach. This item is left behind by the heavenly court. It blossoms every 3,000 years, bears fruit another 3,000 years, and ripens another 3,000 years. Ordinary people who eat it will become lighter and become immortals. Human cultivators who eat it will ascend and become immortal. My dragon race who eats it will live as long as the heaven and earth, as long as the sun and moon. Why you still not taking it out?" "Ha." Immortal Emperor Gaochen laughed and said, "My dear subject, you always nag about this and always ask for the seeds of the immortal peach after eating it. Didn't I already tell you? This immortal peach is left behind by the heavenly court and can only be grown in the Jade Lake of the Empress. Other places are not allowed." "I don't believe it, I don't believe it." Aoi used his dragon claw to stroke his dragon beard again and said with a smile, "My dragon island is a land of water essence. Everything can grow there. Even if this immortal peach is an immortal root, it will definitely be able to grow." "Ha, good." Immortal Emperor Gaochen seemed to be very happy. He turned to the Eastern Sea Empress and said, "Empress, the second elder of the Dragon Palace hasn't come to my immortal palace for a long time. We can't not give him face. How about giving some seeds to the Dragon Island?" Unfortunately, before Immortal Emperor Gaochen could finish, the Eastern Sea Empress smiled and said, "Your Majesty, the immortal peach is the only thing in my immortal palace. Back then, it was Your Majesty who issued the decree that every immortal peach's pit must be taken back and forbidden the immortal peach from flowing to other places. Today, Your Majesty wants me to go against Your Majesty's decree?" Immortal Emperor Gaochen turned to look at Aoi with an innocent face and said, "Second Elder, as you can see, it's not that I'm not accommodating. It's just that the Empress isn't willing." All right. Aoe waved his hand and said with a smile, "It's all your Immortal Palace's things. It's fine if you don't want to give it to me. Why do you have to make so many gimmicks? It sounds like you're teasing me." Ha! Immortal Emperor Gauchen laughed loudly and raised his cup. He said loudly, "I declare that the Jade Lake gathering begins today. My first toast is to the invited exalts. I wish that all the sects and races will work together to resist the world-exterminating strange insect to the boundary of the world and prevent the 3 continents from being plunged into misery and suffering. After our great victory, I will hold a banquet here and invite all of you to Aoe, the golden-winged great rock, the Dipankara archaic Buddha, and Xiaohua raised their cups and saluted each other from afar. Then, they drank their cups in one gulp. Then, Immortal Emperor Gauchen raised his cup again and said, "My second toast is to the exalts of all sects and races. Now, the 3 continents are in a turbulent situation. Talents from all sects and races have emerged. Not to mention the Great Sage Starry Sky Great Sage and the heaven-defying Thunder Phoenix. The Thunder Sound Temple has the Methria Buddha, and the Immortal Palace has the 5 Cheese unification art that the Lord of the Literature Stream Palace brought to us Confucian cultivators. Just the emergence of Taoism and the emergence of several human Mahayana realm experts is enough to make us invincible against the world-exterminating omen. Come, let me toast to all of you." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Xiaohua and the others stood up and raised their cups in response. The third toast. Immortal Emperor Gauchen raised his cup again and looked around. He looked at the Immortal Palace's people and said, "I toast to the Confucian cultivators and the Immortal Palace's people. The turbulent situation in the 3 continents has inevitably affected my Immortal Palace, the hidden Immortal Continent, the Sutra seeking in extreme bliss, the horizon of day and night, the Heavenly Secrets Hall, and many other matters have also told me that I can't always be high and mighty. In the future, I must learn from the 100 schools of thought and get closer to the Immortal Palace's officials. Of course, I also toast to the Empress. I have to deal with the external affairs of the Immortal Palace, while the Empress has to deal with the internal affairs of the Immortal Palace. Oh, and I also hope that after Princess Zixia gets married, she can put down her princess status and follow her daughter's teachings. She can assist her husband and help him achieve great things." The East Sea Empress looked at Immortal Emperor Gauchen with a bit of surprise. However, a trace of gratitude and warmth flashed through her eyes. Princess Zixia stood up with a red face and respectfully looked in the direction of the Immortal Palace. As for the peonies, near the edge, Princess Qingqing's face was pale. She gritted her teeth and looked at Princess Zixia. "Thank you, Your Majesty." The Immortal Palace's people raised their cups and thanked Immortal Emperor Gauchen for the third toast. Dongfang Qianghao didn't sit down. Instead, he raised his cup and said respectfully, "Since Your Majesty mentioned horizon of day and night, this old official will not sit down. Here, this old official will represent the 4 great clans to give Your Majesty a toast. In the past, we were a bit suspicious and were a bit estranged. However, after thinking about it recently, the 4 of us feel that Your Majesty is the most suitable person to sit in this position." Sigh. Immortal Emperor Gauchen raised his cup and sighed. "My dear official, I won't say much. It's lonely at the top. As long as you can comprehend this sentence, you will also understand my difficulties. Come, let's drink this cup. This cup of wine will let bygones be bygones." Dongfang Qianghao said proudly. "Indeed." Immortal Emperor Gauchen nodded and raised his cup. Xiaohua sat on the throne of creation in the distance. He was still holding Princess Zixia's hand. He coldly looked at Immortal Emperor Gauchen and Dongfang Qianghao. He knew that no one at the Jade Lake Conference would believe what they said. The Immortal Palace and the 4 great clans had a long history of grievances. If it wasn't for the rise of the Tao Gate and the Apocalypse, they would be like fire and water now. How could this be resolved with a cup of wine? Perhaps taking Zixia with me and roaming the shores of the West Sea will be the most wonderful thing in the future. Xiaohua thought to himself. He unconsciously turned his head and saw that Princess Zixia's face was still red. She raised her head and saw Xiaohua's gaze. Both their eyes were filled with satisfaction. When Dongfang Qianghao was about to sit down, Immortal Emperor Gaochen smiled and said, "My dear official Dongfang, I remember that you have already made a request. For the prince." "Not good." Before Immortal Emperor Gaochen finished speaking, the East Sea Empress' heart thumped. She knew what Immortal Emperor Gaochen was about to say. She quickly stood up and smiled. "Your Majesty." Immortal Emperor Gaochen was stunned. He looked at the Empress and asked curiously, "Empress, what's the matter?" "Not good." Princess Zixia saw this and her body stiffened. She knew what the East Sea Empress wanted to do. She quickly sent a message to Xiaohua in a low voice. "Ah?" Hearing Princess Zixia's sound transmission, Xiaohua was completely stupefied. How could there be such a thing? But why didn't I know about it? How could the Lightning Immortal tell you about this? Princess Zixia anxiously replied. "Mother will definitely propose in person." Princess Zixia was right. While she was sending a message to Xiaohua, the East Sea Empress had already spoken. "Your Majesty, I have something I wanted to discuss with you. However, since today is a joyous day, the sects of the 3 continents have reached an agreement to fight the world-destroying strange insect together. At the same time, it is also a good day for your Majesty to betroth Princess Zixia to Lightning Immortal Xiaohua. Therefore, I boldly hope that your Majesty can add to the joy and betroth Princess Qingqing to the Lightning Immortal of the Fortune Gate." What? Not to mention Immortal Emperor Gaochen, even Dongfang Qianghao was stunned. Although the two of them didn't discuss this beforehand, Immortal Emperor Gaochen's intention to rope Princess Qingqing in and Dongfang Qianghao's intention to delay the marriage was already set in stone. However, they didn't expect the East Sea Empress to interfere. In the distance, Princess Qingqing watched all of this in disbelief. She felt as if she was in a dream. Her head, which was already heavy, became even heavier. However, in her scheming mind, a primitive joy involuntarily emerged and a smile hung on her lips. "Congratulations, sister," Princess Miao Miao whispered enviously to the side. Princess Qingqing was so happy that she forgot to reply. However, the moment Princess Miao Miao finished her words, Immortal Emperor Go Qin understood the Empress' intentions. He quickly calculated the implications and laughed. "Wonderful, wonderful, the Empress and I are indeed of the same mind." I was just about to bring up Miao Miao's matter and the Empress immediately thought of Qing Qing. Princess Miao Miao's face instantly paled after hearing this. An indescribable sorrow appeared in her eyes. Old fox. Dongfang Qianghao cursed. He knew that Dongfang Huayan had a special liking for Princess Qingqing among the princesses of Immortal Emperor Gaochen. He also mentioned Princess Qingqing, not the cowardly Princess Miao Miao. However, to the Dongfang clan, Princess Qingqing and Princess Miao Miao didn't matter as long as she was a princess of the Immortal Palace. Therefore, Dongfang Qianghao also stood up with a smile. He was about to express his gratitude when a thunderous voice came from the side of the throne of creation. "What the hell is a betrothal? Old man Gaochen, old woman Dongfeng, why do you need to worry about my matters? You're annoying me for no reason." Immortal Emperor Gaochen's expression greatly changed as he snorted. How could he tolerate the Thunderbolt Immortal's rudeness to his face? However, as soon as Immortal Emperor Gaochen snorted, the Thunderbolt Immortal rolled his eyes and stood up. He smiled and said, "Your Majesty, your wine is truly rare in this world. After drinking a few cups, I couldn't help but lose my composure. I was drunk just now. Your Majesty, please forgive I for being a country bumpkin." Don't blame me, don't blame me." Immortal Emperor Gaochen hurriedly stopped while he was ahead. He smiled and said, "The wine at the Jade Lake Gathering is something that the hidden Immortal Continent doesn't have. It's normal for you to be a little tipsy." Normally, Immortal Emperor Gaochen would mention Princess Qingqing after saying this. However, seeing that the Thunderbolt Immortal was angry, he couldn't bring it up anymore. He quietly waited for the Thunderbolt Immortal to explain so that he could resolve the awkwardness. Sure enough, the Thunderbolt Immortal said politely, "The Book of Songs is abundant, Guan Guan Jujio, in the river continent. A gentle and graceful lady is a gentleman's dream. This humble Taoist has only met Princess Qingqing once, and it was during a battle. This humble Taoist doesn't think that I have a good relationship with Princess Qingqing, and this humble Taoist doesn't think that I can have a good future with Princess Qingqing. Therefore, I ask your Majesty and Empress to reconsider. Also, I am now engrossed in cultivation and have reached a critical moment. I have long lost interest in worldly affairs." Of course, the East Sea Empress couldn't tell the truth about Princess Qingqing. Immortal Emperor Gaochen thought that the Empress wanted to use Princess Qingqing to split the fortune gate. Seeing that the Thunderbolt Immortal rejected her, he pondered for a moment and nodded. "Forget it. If that's the case." The moment Immortal Emperor Gaochen spoke, the East Sea Empress immediately understood the outcome. She sighed inwardly. Perhaps she had the same intentions as Princess Zixia, but she didn't have no plans to seek happiness for Princess Qingqing. After all, whether it was Princess Qingqing, Princess Xinxin, or Princess Miao Miao, they were all her daughters. However, when she thought about how her words prevented Princess Qingqing from marrying into the Dongfang family and instead became Princess Miao Miao, the East Sea Empress didn't know whether to be happy or sad. Unfortunately, the East Sea Empress still underestimated her own daughter. Before Immortal Emperor Gaochen could finish speaking, Princess Qingqing flew out from the peony and screamed like a cuckoo, "Thunderbolt! You're full of nonsense. If you weren't interested in me, why did you take advantage of me that day? My chastity has been tarnished. How can I marry someone else? This is bad." Princess Zixia's expression changed when she heard this. She didn't expect Princess Qingqing to cut off all means of retreat and reveal the matter of her being taken advantage of in front of the four great sects. Back then, Princess Xinxin didn't reveal the whereabouts of half a heaven's heart. Immortal Emperor Gaochen lost face and banished her to the lower realm, where she was suppressed at the bottom of the Liao River. Now, Princess Qingqing's words angered him 100 times more than Princess Xinxin. Obviously, Immortal Emperor Gaochen couldn't do anything to the Thunderbolt Immortal and the Fortune Gate. Thus, he could only punish Princess Qingqing. Of course, there were only two outcomes for Princess Qingqing. One was to marry the Thunderbolt Immortal, and the other was to be suppressed. Or even suppressed forever. That you're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.